room and okay. So welcome everyone. My name is Velina Todorova. I'm the regional project coordinator of the Focus project and also part of the Access to Justice team here in the team of Budapest. Before we start this event today, I would like to just share with you a few housekeeping rules for our event. First, that this event will be recorded, as you have noticed, and it will be made available on the Child Hub. Also, the meeting will be held in English, but you can listen into Bulgarian, to Dutch, to Greek, Romanian, and Serbian. It will be a simultaneous translation. Just to make it a bit more clearer, in the bottom of your screen, you will see also kind of a globe where you can also select the language of preference or the language, your own language. Then I wanted to kindly ask you to make sure that your microphones are muted, but that anytime you can use the chat function to provide your inputs, to share information, but also to make questions during our sessions today. Also, I wanted to share that we will have Joyce with us, who will do some visual translation, and it will be interesting to just see time after time how the conversations go and how they are translated in a visual way. This is just like, as I said, a few words about the housekeeping rules. But now I'll just I want to share to pass the floor to Mariama, our regional program manager on Access to Justice, to say a few welcoming words for us today. Please, Mariama. Thank you.
Thank you, Orinda, and welcome everyone. So on behalf of TDH, I'm very pleased to receive you online. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet face to face, but I'm very happy that the technology exists to be able to have this day, because it's been quite a journey for the past 2 years. I'm Mariama Diallo. I'm the Regional Program Manager of the Access to Justice Program at TDH, Terre des Hommes. We are a Swiss-based organization, but with regional office in Europe, where we intervene in 7 countries in various programs on access to justice, migration, but specifically in justice, we work for children that are victims of violence and abuse, and also for children that are in conflict with the law. We have a range of programs and projects on that use advocacy, capacity building, awareness, and research. One of this initiative that we have is the one that we are going to discuss about today, which is this Focus project. Before I say a few more words, I want to say that all our thoughts are with the children, the families, our Ukrainian colleagues, so in Ukraine, in this very complex situations, and we really wish for the peace to come very, very, very soon. I would like also to say kind words for our colleagues that are at the border. Some of the colleagues are even here with us today that are helping very actively at the Romanian border, the Hungarian border, to actually help the flux of the people that are passing. And we are, despite the distance, we have every thought with you and with the Ukrainian children especially. So to go back to the topic of today, as I mentioned, the Focus was really a journey for us, because we started the project at the time of a pandemic. I mean, it was really a month before the pandemic, so we had to really shift. The colleagues, the partners were very amazing in rethinking a bit all the objective and the activities, to switch it from face-to-face to online, to find innovative ways to still work with children. We will hear a bit later today what has been done. And on a topic that in itself is not so straightforward, because it was also about demystifying what we mean by individual assessments of children. There is some legal framework around that, and the project and the different partners really discussed, and with the support of a group of experts, looked a bit into what do we mean in practice, and how can practitioners really benefit from this in their day-to-day work with children. So really focus is the result and the consequence and a result of a strong partnership that really show the high dedication of partners. And the teams. So I would really like to thank here in particular so every single person involved from the consortium, our partners. I would like to thank the members from the technical expert group that have been supporting our the thinking process of the various material that have been developed. And also the children themselves, of course, in the Netherlands.
As usual.
I see that someone still has the microphone on, so I don't know if it's possible to mute the microphone for everyone. Thank you. Thank you. No problem. So yeah, the children, especially from the Netherlands, from Serbia, Romania, from Greece and Bulgaria, will very actively and very interestingly discuss about what child-friendly justice is and how can actually we be talking with practitioners to really understand what children need when they are involved in criminal proceedings. And we also want to thank the experts core team, that is expert Silvia Randazzo, Annemieke Volthuis, Rebecca O'Donnell from Child Circle, who are actually very, we have managed to conceptualize, but also to develop the various tools and resources that will be presented to you today. And also I want to thank you to Velina Todorova and Theoni Koufonikolakou that accepted to give some keynote speeches today on this important topic. So really focus on my needs. This is the name of our project. It is what child-friendly justice is about. It is about how we can have a system that that really adapts to the children and not that children needs to adapt to a system. From a recent survey that we conducted, or actually more than a survey, an extensive research that we conducted in 2020 and 2021, we found out when we studied 19 countries in Europe that there are still 22% of countries, so almost a quarter of these countries, that do not have safeguards that allow for the right of a child to have an individual assessment incorporated in national law. And we also found out that there are only a quarter of countries, let's say courts in countries, that do not base sentences on social inquiry reports. So that means that there are sentences that are still being that are being given without really properly assessing the situation of the child and making it fit to the needs of the children. So this is what we are going to maybe help to demystify today with everything that will be presented to you. And to say about, to quote also one of the Serbian children that have been involved in a consultation to influence the EC strategy on the rights of the child, a 16-year-old mentioned that for them, child-friendly justice is a judicial system that understands the needs of children. So we hope that in these 2 years, we managed to contribute to that. We managed to make that system can be better understanding the needs of children. And I'm very happy to then give the floor back to you, Orinda, and I wish you very fruitful discussions today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mariama, and I would echo your thanks to everyone who has participated in this project and who also contributed to make it to achieve the results that we have achieved so far. To continue with the program today, I would like to share my screen and also walk through the agenda that we have for today. Sorry, it's a mess, my screen. Okay, so this is the agenda for today, just to make sure that what is going to happen in this final conference. As we already heard from Mariama, we had her welcoming words, but we will have also a very short summary of the initiative. So what is the initiative, why we have had this initiative, and also some of the project results. Then we are very pleased and honored to have Velina Todorova, the Deputy Chair of Child Rights Committee, with us today, who will speak and focus more on individual need assessment and also children's rights. In the first session of the conference today, we would like to focus our attention on a very relevant question on how to make systematic individual assessment practices. This question, we would refer to also what the project did in terms of tools, resources, but also all the activities that we did in this regard. Then we will have a question and answer, and we would really encourage to make it as much as possible interactive. And we would also like to receive questions, comments, also your inputs that you might have. Then we will go to an open dialogue. And in this open dialogue, we would like to discuss a bit more on some challenges and opportunities, because it's true that through these initiatives, but other initiatives that have been focused on individual assessment, things has been done to improve the situation, to improve the implementation of individual assessments. But based on the context, there are still challenges, there are still opportunities there that might be used. And so it's good to kind of initiate this dialogue and to see what can be put forward. We will have a break. It's a 15 minutes break from 3:45 to 4 to start then with a third session that will help us to think in terms of the future. So what is the way forward? What is a roadmap for progress and a roadmap for strengthening the individual assessment? And we will see this in the 4 areas that have been identified and put in this agenda as well, like promoting awareness, improving system, building specialized knowledge, and empowering children. We'll have still a session for questions and answers, and just taking the last point of empowering children, we will really like to focus on what has been an added value for this project, the children's involvement. They have been with us throughout this project, and they have been consulted in different points in the process. They have been their capacities have been raised through the capacity building program, but also they have been supported with resources to develop their own ideas. So it will be interesting to see today what ideas they have produced. They will be introduced by our colleagues in the countries, but also in some parts we will have also their intervention. So this way we'll go with closing remarks from Theoni Koufonikolakou, who is also the Deputy Ombudsperson for Children's Rights, but also Chair of the European Network of Ombudspersons for Children. We would be very happy to hear what she will have to say, but also to see if a dialogue can be initiated also with children in that dedicated space for the closing remarks. And then we hope that just like a 5 minutes, let's say, to have this closure of the conference, and we'll have also a poll, very short one with 2 questions that will be posed by my colleague Tamás. So I will start with the short presentation of the focus as it is in the agenda, and I will share my PowerPoint with you now. So we have this project, which has a very beautiful name, actually, a focus on my needs, working together for children in criminal proceedings. And I wanted to as a reminder, but also to put a focus or an emphasis of why this initiative. And I wanted to mention just two important elements that we had in our minds when designing and developing this proposal and this idea 2 years ago. That a multidisciplinary and robust individual assessment guarantees the full exercise to a fair justice for the child involved in criminal proceedings, but also that holistic child assessment needs to be provided at the earliest appropriate stage possible to assess the best interests of the child, and also to tailor-make individualized responses. This is a very important obligation as well, which derives from different directives of the European Union. And here we have listed the directive 2012 on the minimum standards on the rights, support and protection of victims of crime. But we also have Article 7 of the directive on procedural safeguardings for children who are suspect or accused persons in criminal proceedings. And then we can go to the other 2 two directives, one on the sexual abuse and sexual exploitation of children and child pornography, and also on preventing and combating trafficking in human beings. So this was, let's say, the basis or the starting point, or why this initiative started. This initiative was funded by the Rights, Equality and Citizenship Program of the European Union, 2014-2020. It started in January 2020 and is ending now in the end of March 2021. I was very pleased to be in this journey with my colleagues from Child Circle Belgium, and actually Rebecca providing a lot of expertise throughout the project, with my colleagues from Defense for Children, the Child Rights Center in Serbia, the Social Activities and Practices Institute in Bulgaria, and my colleagues from Third Zone, both in Greece and also in Romania. With what I explained on why that initiative, actually the focus main objective was actually to support the child-centered justice and ensure that children in contact with the law as victims, as offenders, receive individualized care and have access to personalized support and responses, including also restorative justice processes. And what we mostly sought to do was to make systematic individual assessment the practices of more common application, to build knowledge and capacities and skills of youth justice professionals, but also to build the knowledge and capacities of children. So in this regard, what are some of the results that we can share? In terms of building and promoting models, we are very happy to share with you, and they will be further elaborated through the different sessions in this event today. But we have a set of practical tools and resources for professionals that will help them to undertake individual assessment processes. And here we have a long list of the focus standards, the standard self-reflection tool, a mapping tool, a reference table for progress, the pilot planning tool, a research summary that was done at the very beginning of the project. We have the international human rights standards applicable on individual assessment practices. Also, question and answer, let's go about the individual assessment, which will provide more clarity on the concepts as well, and the why and who. And also the focus research summary on individual assessments with children in Europe. But in terms of building and promoting models, that is only one aspect. We have worked also on lots of advocacy events, and actually one event has taken place in each of the countries of implementation. And by the way, they were Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, the Netherlands, and Serbia. In these advocacy meetings, we had around 100 professionals participated, which also helped to promote the initiative, but also the importance of the individual assessment and to raise awareness among their networks. Also, through these 2-year and 3 months project implementation, we worked also on piloting those tools and resources that I mentioned earlier in our 5 countries. We also developed 5 sustainability plans to develop to further roll out the assessment tools, and also a roadmap for strengthening individual assessment processes. I will just mention here these let's say tools or these documents, because then we will have the chance, as I said, throughout the sessions during the sessions to go more in depth on them. In terms of building capacities, we worked a lot, and we developed a focus training handbook, a full package for the capacity building of professionals, which was complemented and also completed, let's say, with an e-learning course, which is accessible and open to professionals across Europe. We also have a technical interface of resources to support the process of developing and conducting systematic multidisciplinary individual assessment with children. We'll see this also later. And through this capacity building, we worked on increasing the capacities and skills of. I hear some voices. Okay, so maybe we mute the microphones. Okay, thank you. Okay. So we have trained around 150 professionals in all our countries of implementation. Finally, but last but not least, and it's very important, we have worked also empowering children, but what we achieved is to have 5 child advisory boards, and namely in Bulgaria, Greece, Romania, Serbia, and the Netherlands. 42 children were trained, and 10 training sessions has taken place. Those on focus on the topic of procedural safeguardings, and also on arts and participation. Mariama mentioned, but I will also mention here again, that it was great work done by all the child advisory boards during the consultation that were held for the EC strategy on the rights of the child, and we received very good input from the children for this document. And then children were also supported to and provided with resources to develop their own ideas. So we had child-led awareness raising campaigns in the countries of implementation. We had also child-friendly leaflet, poster, videos, one survey that was done by children, and also one platform that was done by children also from the Child Advisory Board in Serbia. Again, through the all these elements will be more clear, and we will go more in depth during the session that is dedicated to children in the second part of this conference. Lastly, I'll mention some other results that went beyond what was foreseen. As mentioned by Mariama, we started this project 2 years ago, and it really was like in parallel with the pandemic. So since we're talking about individual assessment, it was just for sure that we had to also consider what were the consequences of that situation for children and the individual assessment, or how individual assessment could be properly done in those circumstances. For this reason, we organized 2 webinars. One was focused on child victims, and the second one on children in conflict with the law. But just to raise awareness and challenges in undertaking individual assessments in certain times, for instance, during the COVID-19. We had around 17 participants in this online conversation. And the second point is that Focus also had a dedicated space during the 2021 World Congress for Justice with Children with 40 participants, and a workshop that was focused on multidisciplinary individual assessments for children, a gateway to inclusive child-centered justice, which was also very good, with very good outcomes from that workshop. This is a summary of what we did in these 2 years. I thank you for your attention. And I would like to now go to the other part of our agenda today, and to invite Ms. Velina Todorova for her keynote speech. I would like to make a short introduction and say that Velina is a Bulgarian lawyer and a PhD in sociology of law, associate professor and on civil and family law at the law faculty. She has an extensive experience in research and in the lawmaking in the area of child rights protection, social protection, family law. She has publishes nationally and internationally, and is both an expert and a member of the Commission on the European Family Law, member to the European Family Law Academic Network since 2019. She is also a founder of the Governmental Agency for Child Protection. She has always combined her academic career with a strong activism as a member and supporter of various human rights initiatives and NGOs, a Deputy Minister of Justice, and also a member to the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child. Thank you, and I'd like to just pass the floor to Velina.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this little bit too long presentation. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the excellent project. Congratulations for all the results you produced, and I'm happy to be here and to give you and the participants a little bit broader perspective on the issues regarding children's rights and justice system. So as a member of the committee, I'm supposed to to pay attention to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the contents of my presentation is as following. I will speak briefly about the Convention and the individual assessment. Then I'll move to European law, discussing the nature, purpose, and functions of the individual assessment. Then briefly on the link between the individual assessment and protection measures as they are developed in the Convention and in the EU law, very briefly, and I will conclude with the individual assessment in practice, sending my greetings to the two projects being implemented in parallel in various state parties in the European Union. So first, now I would like very briefly to remind us that the Convention on the Rights of the Child actually was the first legally binding instrument that provided for certain rights of the child in the justice system. We all know that the Convention is a holistic document taking the child personality from various perspectives. And here I have quoted the famous principles of non-discrimination, best interests, child's views, and some concrete articles that envisage certain rights for children in the justice system. Then I would like to move to some other important point and to draw your attention to the relatively recent general comment of the committee 24th on children's rights in the child justice system, and to remind you that this previous general comment number 10. Some years ago, we developed a revised version on that comment. So this comment is rich in analysis and recommendations to state parties regarding the involvement of children in the justice system. And in that comment, I put the focus on the actually the link between the rights of children in the justice and the individual assessment as a new instrument, actually is a new instrument developed in the under the European Union law. Here we see on the screen that the committee emphasizes about the principle of proportionality, which is an established principle in the penal justice system. But when children are involved, we consider and we recommend that the proportionality goes also with regard to the assessment of not only of the crime, but also of the personal circumstances of the child involved. And to consider this as serving not only to the rights of children and their best interest, but also to the long-term needs of the society. And the long-term needs of the society, when speaking about penal justice or criminal justice, we should always think about the best interests of the child and the rights of the child involved in the criminal justice, no matter if the child is a victim or offender. So there is not a direct the general comment that does not speak directly about individual assessment. It is a kind of invention of European Union law, but there are very strict and very good legal grounds in the jurisprudence of the committee that support and encourage and endorse the individual assessment. And we briefly, we can identify the individual assessment as an instrument actually to assess and determine the best interests of the child in the penal justice system, which was a kind of a missing or difficult to implement concept in the criminal justice system. So to the question why individual assessment, I start again with this very close instrumental link towards making enabling the child's best interest to be assessed in the penal justice. As you call it, individual assessment we can view as the gateway to child-friendly justice, and I very much support this this kind of definition. We should agree. I think that we are in agreement that still the penal justice system is focused more on repression, and it is the goals of the system are to actually to deliver justice, delivering sanctions or verdicts to the perpetrators, but the individual assessment, our attention on the specific needs of children. Actually, you said at the beginning that it is an instrument to adapt the system rather than to adapt the child to the system. The individual assessment has another value. Because it has a great coordination potential. We cannot actually achieve the goals of individual assessment if not following the, if not avoiding or missing this multidisciplinary nature of the assessment. It gives all of this holistic approach to the child and the rights of the child, and because it involves, it involves all the systems around the child, including and mainly social protection systems, social services, health sector, education sector, and this is again an instrument to prepare and to deliver to the justice system the assessment of the specific needs and interests of the child. So we should be very clear that yeah, actually the penal justice is concentrated, focus on proofs, finding proofs to prove the crime, etc. Individual assessment goes beyond that. It is not could be a kind of a proof used by the system, but it actually is a tool also for the protection of the child, because we shouldn't forget that the child offenders are always victims of the circumstances, prevention of the gaps in the education, family policies, child protection, etc. So this should be always in our mind, and giving the authorities, the authorities from the criminal justice system this multidisciplinary needs assessment, it becomes a tool for child protection. And this is a good moment to say that individual assessment actually helps to integrate the penal justice with the child protection, and gives power, empowers judges or prosecutors to use the assessment and to direct children to the system systems that will deliver that will meet the specific needs of the child. That is why the individual assessment serves the child's rights, but also the society. And I already said why. And not to forget the last but not least, and it is in the two directives, individual assessment, if integrated properly, is that if the two directives go properly into the national legislation, the assessment will serve as a base to create this the most desired mutual trust that is a basis for judicial cooperation in the European Union. Then, well, I go back to the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Here are the extracts from Article 40, and I'm not going to read this, just to draw your attention that there is a legal basis in the Convention, although not explicit, but quite convincing legal basis that individual assessment actually is a tool to implement the convention rights and to protect children in the justice system. Also, last but not least, I would like to focus that we can integrate via the assessment, we can easily integrate into the penal justice social variety of social and educational measures that could be implemented by the, as I said, courts, judges, or prosecutors that could serve the needs of children. And so this is my definition of the individual assessment as a main good, excellent instrument to determine in a multidisciplinary manner the specific for the concrete child needs within and beyond the penal proceedings. Individual assessment is a good tool to serve the needs of the child in the penal proceedings, for example, and you will be talking about the diversion of children from the justice system, to implement restorative measures and to avoid detention of children pre-trial, during the trial, and as a penalty. Also to serve other needs beyond the penal procedures, health needs, specific needs, health needs, education, protection, or care needs of the child. And these needs, if we serve them, we go to the issue and need for the reintegration of children after the proceedings. And yes, the assessment is a perfect tool to clearly assess and determine the risks and vulnerabilities of children victims, also paying attention for intersectional discrimination, for example, based on ethnicity, gender, disability, and other criteria of the child. And I'm going to end. Yeah, actually, we may again determine the individual assessment as a tool to change the paradigm of penal justice. And here I have a brief comparison between the two projects that are taking place almost at one and the same time. I am your project, a focus project that is the center of this conference, and particularly to greet you for this child participation component, for the valuable contribution that they have had from children. Congratulations. And the other project is a project that I am involved in. Our focus is more on the judiciary. And our aim is actually to work on this multi-sectoral cooperation, coordination, really to focus on the multidisciplinary nature of individual assessment. And we are trying to bring together various actors around the criminal court and criminal justice to support the criminal and to support the child involved. So these are my conclusions. We have the two directives coming quite late after the adoption of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. One is 23, the other one is 26 years after the convention was adopted, ratified. But still, we see the convention has been ratified by 196 state parties. European Union is a smaller union of states, but EU is still a leader, global leader in child rights protection and promotion. So we are very pleased to have these directives. We know that they actually present a kind of consensus among state parties, although you said that at the beginning that quite a few state parties haven't transposed yet the directives, so we have to fight, we have to advocate for that. Well, another conclusion could be that we need a new paradigm of penal justice when a child is involved, and you spoke a lot about that. The next conclusion could be that the individual assessment has a rich potential to protect children's rights, but also to increase the effectiveness of justice and child protection system. I would like to underline that actually the individual assessment could be understood also as a meeting point of the two systems and the potential to bridge the systems and to create better results for children. Yes, I spoke about the mutual trust. So finally, thank you very much. I really would like to see and a lot of great use of the tools you produced in order to translate the convention and the EU law into the real life of children. And thank you very much for your invitation and attention. Sorry for the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Velina. We're perfectly in time.
Okay.
Thank you for this very interesting and enriching actually presentation and all your points raised with regard to the links between individual assessment, best interests of the child, the link between justice system and child protection when it comes to individual assessment, the new paradigm, as you called it, but also the innovative aspect of the individual assessment. I'm pretty sure that all these good points that you raised will accompany us in the following sessions that are foreseen in this event today. And so without further ado, I will just pass the floor to Marta, to my colleague from Defense for Children, to just continue with the next session on how to make systematic individual assessment of more common application with children involved in criminal proceeding. The floor to you, Marta.
Yes, thank you, Orinda. It's so good to be here today and to moderate this interesting session. And thank you, Velina, as well, for these inspiring words. And I have to say this perspective on how the individual assessment instrument can serve the best interests of the child and long-term needs of society is very good to continue with. I am Maartje Berger. I'm from Defense for Children in the Netherlands, and I was also part of the Focus project team for the last 2 years. And I'm here to moderate a session about how to make systemic individual assessment practices for common application with children involved in criminal proceedings. And that it is a challenge that, we have seen that in the Focus project that for European countries, implementing the obligation and the right of children to individual assessment into the national systems is done everywhere, but never in no country fully. And lots of countries are really struggling with analyzing where to start or how to make improvements. So now we will have 3 talks with 3 experts of our team. And these are Annemieke Wolthuis, and she's a researcher and trainer at Restorative Justice the Netherlands. We also have Rebecca O'Donnell, she's director of Child Circle, Belgium. Sylvia Randazzo is here, and she's the child justice expert for Terre des Hommes. And well, together we will have a close look at standards and tools that have been developed in the Focus project and with the team. So now I first will give the floor to Annemieke Wolthuis. And she has been reflecting on the assessment in Europe and has looked at a lot of European reviews. So she will tell us a bit more, I think, about how to make use of the tools in all these different countries and settings. Annemieke, hello.
Hello, thank you, Maartje. Thank you for the organizers. Thank you for the audience to be here. I'm happy to present a little bit of the research we have been doing in the Focus project. Thank you also, Velina, for your words. I recall a nice meeting in Sofia some years ago together with Anne Skelton and Masha Antokovskaya. We had also a very nice dinner over there. But it's good to hear also from you this important aspect, how to link the child justice system with child protection, and that the Convention on the Rights of the Child gives a good basis for that, but also the new directives on which we base ourselves a lot in working with individual child assessments. In the restorative justice area where I'm working a lot, we do also work quite a bit with the work of Taligal, who's really emphasizing this importance to combine needs and rights of children. So focusing on only human rights aspects is not enough, but not focusing only on needs of children and psychological aspects is not enough either. So we really have to work holistically and to work towards these multidisciplinary ways of working, and that is what this project is also about. Before I continue to explain a little bit more about what we discovered in our project, I would like to show you a video where Fotis from Greece and Bora and Busto from Romania are explaining to us the importance of what they have to say about child justice and their needs. Orinda, could you help me with sharing what they made? Thank you.
Brinda, the sound is not working.
The sound, that's why I stopped sharing, because I noticed. Okay, just a second, I will start again.
Okay.
Sorry.
I believe that when a child enters the legal system, this experience needs to be both not traumatic, but also the child needs to understand.
Cumva am fost speriat și înderutat din cauza faptului că lucrurile nu mergeau spre a progresa, mergeau doar spre a pedepsi. Greșisem și lucrurile în viața mea au avut o învățătură destul de urâtă, pentru că înțelegeam din tot ce se petrecea că trebuie doar să suport consecințele și nu că trebuie să mă îndrept. Cu siguranță multe lucruri trebuiau îndreptate în viața mea, însă trebuiau îndreptate progresând, nu distrugând și ceea ce era pozitiv la momentul respectiv în viața mea.
I think that it needs to be familiar and comforting in a way that actually encourages them to be honest and speak their minds and retell true accounts of events.
La instanță, domnul judecător mi-a dat cuvântul. Am vorbit timp de un minut. În acel minut nu m-a întrebat absolut nimic ceva legat de faptă sau ceea ce am făcut. Nu cred că aș putea să-i dovedesc cuiva într-un minut că eu, într-adevăr, m-am reabilitat.
If the right needs aren't there to truly implement this, then it's like completely futile, because yes, some can exist on paper, but it's much different than actually having that be implemented on a daily basis in all children entering the legal system.
Spun incompletă pentru că atunci când am solicitat un psiholog care să mă consulte, nu mă așteptam să dureze doar 5-6 minute, după care să-mi spună că eu nu am nevoie de el.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. The technique is always a bit challenging with these kind of meetings, so we could not hear everything totally clear, but it gives you an idea of what young people are sharing, and some of these youngsters went through the justice system and were also complaining somewhat about where they were not listened to well enough. And that is something that we also, when we did our reviews in the 5 countries, came across, that some of the children and young people are not well listened to, but also other challenges were found. I will state some of these challenges. The research and the information about individual child assessment was sometimes limited in scope and in purpose, not undertaken properly sometimes for certain children, especially children with disabilities were also an area where we needed more attention. It was often about children, but not properly engaging children. Some of the things these boys also state. Often undertaking in intimidating situations. So we need really to pay attention to have clear settings where hearings of children are really safe and feel comfortable. Often it was done by one professional. While you need to work together in this particular field, you should hand over your case as well. We also found out that some professionals, or at least the colleagues talking about it, said that they felt their colleague professionals should have more training. There was a lack of knowledge and skills. Key resources are sometimes lacking. And too often you see that when individual assessments are done, it's just a tick of the box, like this, but not really contributing to the real situation of the child. And too much ad hoc work, dispersed practice across different professionals. So there was this need to work together to find out what are also promising practices, and to make sure that in the pilots, in the trainings we developed together, that these challenges were met. And we did our best to do so. We also listened very well to the young people. They in all the countries we'd had child advisory boards, as has been mentioned before. And yeah, when we looked at the system, what should be really in place, also when you look again at the directives, then we should of course have first of all in place good laws and regulations, good policies as well. Then procedures should be okay. It should be clear who, when, how, what, where, and for what purpose an individual assessment is undertaken. We also need coordinating protocols. We need tools and practices, and to assist with working in this particular field, and with the still quite broad obligations of the directives, we during this project developed tools ourselves, and that is what my colleagues Rebecca O'Donnell and Sylvia Randazzo will talk about a bit later. What we of course also need is skilled professionals, and that was also something we aimed for. We in the 5 countries we trained many professionals, but we worked also closely with local trainers. So it was this really mutual learning, and to come back to the word mutual trust, I think that is also here very important. Yeah, we also need specific resources for specific cases and needs. You need to have specific resources, not only funding, but also making sure that the system works well. And we also need to work along the lines of accountability, make sure that the mechanisms are in place, but also that monitoring and reviews have been done.
Monica, I have to look at the time. So
yeah,
if there, yeah, is that possible?
Yeah, indeed, because I'm almost to hand over the floor to my colleagues, because the promising practices, for example, that we figured out, I'm just going to mention 2 things. One is the in the child protection area, this Barnehus model, where every protection and assistance is placed under one roof. That is definitely a very learning learning experience. The use of restorative justice was in many countries also something that really gave the conflicts back to parties themselves, where you see child participation really in a well done way, and something that in both of the justice areas and the child protection areas people were eager to learn more about. So but let's see what we actually developed. A good moment to give the floor to my colleague Rebecca O'Donnell, who worked on the individual assessment and quality standards tool and the self-assessment tool, and we will talk later during the next session also on what we further developed as a roadmap. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Annemieke. And it's very good to hear that all systems are different, but that there's an overlap of issues and steps to take. And well, I think together with the audience, we're very interested now in hearing more about standards and tools. So Rebecca O'Donnell, well, the child rights expert and director of Child Circle. You have been working a lot on standards and self-assessment tool. And can you say a bit more about these impacts on the criminal procedure of children?
Thanks.
Yeah, Rebecca's there. Yeah.
Is that, and you can hear me. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to be in the same virtual room with so many participants who are involved in different ways and in so many interesting ways with children involved in criminal justice. Our job, Sylvia and myself, Sylvia will speak after me, but our job was really to show you a little bit what we've done. We cannot possibly, in the time we have, really take you through these tools. But the great news is that part of this project was, of course, to develop a technical interface. At the beginning of the project, we used to call it the window into everything, all of our tools. And you will be able to access each of those tools. But I will share my screen for a moment to take you through a little bit of an introduction of what we've seen if my screen cooperates to bring us through. I'm very grateful to Velina Todorova for such an interesting introduction, because many of the points I can simply refer back to. I mean, this is our starting point, that to ensure child-centered justice, you need to understand the child's situation, help the child access their rights. We know that many professionals have a role in this. Many measures may be involved, and that information for professionals and for children to make sure this happens is required at different moments of the criminal investigation. So, as has been said, but it's worth saying again, we see the individual assessments as indeed this gateway, the initial moment, the gateway into criminal justice proceedings for all children. It will function to gather and feed information to all professionals involved with the child. Velina already spoke about the potential for coordinating. You know, we do see the individual assessment as the very tool that will allow coordination of both the child justice and child welfare and protection responsibilities that arise simultaneously. And of course, the whole point is to focus in on the child, which was very clear from our project name. What practice elements are in place? I'm not going to take you through any of this. I'm just going to say that in our standards document, the focus standards, we set out a profile of the legal obligations and the practical elements that need to be in place to do this properly. Why is an assessment undertaken? What is its scope? Who uses it? Who undertakes it when, and what's it used for, etc. So you'll browse through these issues. We also very much underline that an individual assessment isn't a checklist. It isn't a tick the box exercise. In fact, it needs to be underpinned by a system, clear laws. And Annemieke spoke about some of the things that people felt were still needed and some of the good practices that are in place. But basically, you need laws, you need tools and practices, policies, skilled professionals, etc. Again, I would direct you to the focus standards where we outline this a little bit more. And then, of course, at the heart of the standards are these guiding principles that we thought were essential to really help people shape both the systems, their processes, and even individual practice for stakeholders. So we really see them as useful to everyone involved, whether your role is developing the system or monitoring the system or trying to promote these better tools, or even in your individual practice. Again, we don't have time to go through the standards in any detailed way, but as we said, just think of them as foundation stones for the processes, that they're there to assist both the development of the system and improving practice, that they are general principles which all models can fulfill, because again, as has been said, every member state has a slightly different way of doing this. They have different actors involved with slightly different roles. So it's not to impose a uniform model, that can't be done, but it is to offer principles that every system should fulfill. And these are not too general, they're not too abstract. We designed them so they would assist you in making practical progress. And indeed, there's an accompanying assessment tool, which is really to allow, and rather it isn't an assessment tool so much, it's a reflection tool. It allows you consider whether or not you're meeting these principles and how you can meet them. As I said, they really were designed to address key problems. And again, I won't go through all of these, but it's been said that sometimes you have an assessment undertaken, but it's very limited in scope and its purpose. It's not there to address all of the responsibilities towards a child. So our standard on developing holistic and comprehensive systems really helps you from the outset put in place a system that has the right scope and purpose. We also saw that it wasn't always undertaken for certain children. These individual assessments simply weren't undertaken for certain children. And I mean, arguably, that can be
Dear Rebecca, I'm sorry, just a moment. The Romanian translators, please choose the Romanian channels, because you are speaking now on the English one and people cannot hear you there.
And I should have in advance apologized to the translators for the fact that as an Irish person, I was going to suddenly start talking very quickly. So I do apologize. I should slow down as well, though I appreciate that wasn't the point. Again, I won't walk through all of the standards. You'll see that there are 10 of them, a nice round memorable number. The way they're set out is that you have a principle which provides a key term, and you have a statement of that principle. We give the rationale for the principle, and we give you some practical indicators to help you see whether or not you're meeting them, as well as connecting to resources that can be helpful. We would love to see them as a living document, because we did what we could in the years of the project, but we know that there are developments, that tools are become available that are tremendously useful. So it would be lovely somehow to be able to treat it as a living document and to collect more of these types of tools. An example, multidisciplinary and collaborative. Obviously, we are saying that the child should benefit from an individual assessment and a collaborative approach of professionals. Again, just to give you an insight into the rationale, it's obviously set out more fully, but the insight for a collaborative approach is that it ensures different dimensions of the child's situation are taken into consideration. Some of this sounds innocuous, but it always needs to be said. And in terms of indicators, as examples, you need protocols for coordination. You may need case management meetings and tools. Very importantly, we saw the need for protocols for data sharing in full respect for privacy rules. As I said, the standards can be used to raise awareness of the individual assessment obligation, to support assessments of your systems and encourage the conversations that you need to have together amongst stakeholders to support development of the processes themselves and to help professionals work together. There were a foundation stone in the training, which Sylvia will now explain. And individuals in their own roles may be able to kind of question themselves and see, am I being inclusive? You know, am I doing a full individual assessment? Have I sought to involve an interpreter where one is needed? If a child has a disability, have I gone the extra mile to try and get the expertise that we need to really engage in the child's situation? And of course, we want the standards to kind of operate as a framework which allows stakeholders to continue to share information, both locally, locally and nationally, but also across the region. It was a very rich exchange to be able to look over each other's shoulders across the European jurisdictions. So I leave it there, and again with my thanks to the patient translators.
Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. That gave a good view of what we have been looking at last year.
Waar we het over hebben gehad de afgelopen
jaren. A lot of translation at the moment.
Okay.
Well, it's already time to introduce our last speaker, and that is Sylvia Randazzo. And she will lead us along the next steps of the project. Because with these tools, we can we can try to implement the principles and the standards, and then make a good basis for the work of training, of planning the piloting, of publishing our results on the technical interface. So Sylvia, can I give you the floor, and can you tell us a bit more about the outputs of our focus project?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Martia. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Mariama, Orinda, for the organization of this event. It's nice to see you all here. It's true, it's a bit weird to see you online. I was really hoping to see you. I think it was in Serbia in the original plan, but yeah, maybe next project, probably. I hope to see you there. So indeed, as Martia and my colleagues mentioned, my role will be to guide you through a bit to guide you through the tools and many resources that we produce in Focus. I will show you some visuals so you really have a grasp of what the many, I must say, the quite rich project that Focus has been. So now I will start immediately sharing my screen, and you should see it. Just shout if you have any problems with the audio translation or video. So I'll, as I said, as Martia said, I'm a third exam in-house consultant, and I've been collaborating closely, especially closely with Rebecca and Annemieke in this couple of years. And we've been developing together, of course, with the partnership with all the people involved, quite a number of tools and resources for professionals specifically. Okay, no, something is happening to my, okay. Okay, sorry for that. So what I really briefly wanted to give you a background in the sense, so how did we get to the redevelopment of these tools and resources? You heard already from Orinda, Rebecca, and Annemieke what happened through Focus. So I will not stay too long on this part, but just to say that after the review of the European situation, as Annemieke was mentioning, so we did this mapping, a bit of practices on individual assessment with children involved in criminal proceedings in the countries, in the implementing countries, and also trying to grasp some more information from other European countries and also outside Europe. So we reached a state of play with the conclusions already shared by Annemieke, and those conclusions then led us to work on the development of tools, because one of the main activities and part of the project was the piloting, as also was mentioning, and the piloting in the implementing countries, meaning in the 5 countries involved in the project, included the pilot, so the use and a bit of the experimentation of some of the tools that we produce and the resources we produce in the course of the project, and including the tools developed for the training, because the training itself was the first, let's say, the first activity of the piloting in the 5 countries. To also finish, to begin and finish very quickly, as I said, with the background for this development of these tools and resources, indeed, probably has already been emphasized a lot by my colleagues, but it was a very collaborative work throughout these 2 years and more, 2 years and 3 months. So it was not an easy process, also because of the complexity of the concept of individual assessment and the variety of principles and practices, especially. So ways in which individual assessment is really applied in different jurisdictions. So it was not easy to really get to the development of tools and resources that are useful and can be replicated and used in different contexts. But we are kind of positive that we managed to do that through intensive, brainstorming and exchange between all partners, and the validation of a regular validation from the technical advisory board. And also I like always to put this little picture in the bottom right of my slide to sign the only moment where we managed to meet in person. It was the kickoff meeting in Budapest in 2020. So it was nice memory to recall. So going directly then to the tools and the resources, these are the 3, let's say, categories of tools that I will present you, and now we will go through them one by one, more or less. So we have some resources, reference resources that were already mentioned by Rebecca and Annemieke, training tools and tools for the piloting, but also tools, which means tools were used for the piloting, but will be hopefully used by professionals also beyond the project. And you will find all of these tools and resources on the technical interface that I will show you in a moment. This is a list of the reference resources that we developed. Again, we already mentioned this. So we have a European overview of the practices that is the result of also of national reports, an overview of international legal standards, Q&A, which includes some key concepts and some most frequently asked, let's say, questions on individual assessment with children, and a final document that's been just finalized in these days, the mutual learning paper that we'll present probably better later on in the next session. So going through the first category of a bit of tools that I introduced were the training tools. Again, the training, as I said, was the first activity of the piloting. So it was one of the first activities in general of the project that we implemented. It was, I think, a year ago. So also in that case, we had to adapt. So it was supposed to be training face-to-face, but then eventually it happened online. So also the training handbook was developed to be used on online sessions. So this is the cover of the training handbook. It's made of 4 modules that goes through really an introduction of children's rights and the key principle, legal principles and legal framework, and then guide the professionals, multidisciplinary professionals through really the core of individual assessment, sharing some practices, some videos, also testimonies from experts from other countries, then through some really practical tips also on how to pilot and improve individual assessment in their own countries. The training handbook has been used as a basis for the e-learning modules that, as Orinda said, is available. They are available on the website, on the technical interface for all professionals who are interested. The e-learning is available in 6 languages because it's in English and Bulgarian, Dutch, Romanian, Greek, and Serbian. This is how it looks like at the moment. So it really reflects a bit the structure of the training handbook, but adapted to a more like a self-paced, of course, kind of course. So without a trainer. So we provided reading materials, videos, case studies, quizzes, etc. More interactive kind of tools to go through the contents. Then in terms of pilot tools, I mean, tools that have been used for the piloting, but I can also, that we are sharing on the website, on the technical interface, several. So Rebecca extensively already talked about the quality standards. We also have the standards assessment tool, a mapping tool, a reference table for progress, and the pilot planning tool. And I will show you them one by one, so for you also to have an idea of what we mean by that, by each of them. Okay, sorry. So these are the standards. Already you saw the graphic, even so there are 10 standards, and you can go and have a more in-depth look later if you want on the website. We have the self-reflection standards self-assessment tool, so which looks like, this is just a snapshot, of course, of parts of the document. So especially you will see here, we focus on one of the standards. So this document is meant to accompany the standards, the quality standards document, and is meant to accompany professionals in understand how to develop recommendations, so you identify challenges in respect to the specific standard, and then identify recommendations for progress on how to improve the practice. The next tool is the mapping tool. So this again is a tool that can be used and should be used by professionals to establish and assess the state of development of individual assessment in the specific country. So it includes a set of questions. This again, I wanted to show you here, for example, some visual example of how the questions look like summary here, for example, questions about the law and policy and procedure. Here we have other examples of the practices of individual assessment. So the professionals ideally should go through these questions, and together, of course, in a group, in a team and a pool of people, multidisciplinary professionals, reassess how the country specifically has gone in terms of individual assessment for children. The other tool is the reference table for progress. So that will help professional identify the goals. So after you, as a professional, you have identified what are the challenges and where the country is in terms of individual assessment, then you will be able to identify some goals. So what do you aim for in terms of progress? What are the objectives of your action? And that's how it looks like. So you have the state of play, and then some example of realistic, of course, objective for your plan of progress. Finally, the last tool is the pilot planning tool, so which was used already in the project for as the name says, to plan specifically about the activities to be proposed and done in a piloting project that aims to reach the goals of stated in the previous tool. So here you have all the categories that should be addressed when designing a piloting. And finally, where you find all these tools on the technical interface, and as I still always use this picture, because as Rebecca said, we like to call it from the beginning a window. So it's a window really on individual assessment. That's what we like to think, a window that can help professionals to assist professionals in really developing practices and improving their practices in multidisciplinary individual assessment. And to almost closing, I wanted to show you how this the technical interface look like. So you should see now the website. So this is the home page. So it's really as I was telling you before, if you go, for example, on tools and resources, you will find everything more or less we talked about. So all the different tools, and then you click on each of them, for example, here, and then you'll see the explanation, and you can download the document. So and here again on learning, you go and you will find access to the e-learning modules. Yeah, that's here, and then you go and you log in. Of course, you need to register with an account, etc. So I go back a second to my PowerPoint just to close. Yes, and so yeah, oops, yeah, that's the end. I mean, this definitely the end of this project, but we would like this to be the beginning really of a process of improving practices, and we hope that these tools can be of use. So thank you for your attention. Thank you, Martia.
Well, thank you, Sylvia. Very good to see that it is possible to make steps and practical progress. And I guess that there might be questions on the handbook or the e-learning or what's there on the technical interface. But we're also running a little bit out of time. And after this session is a session for open discussion. So if there's really urgent questions, we can put them in the chat, and maybe Eva can address one or two. But for now, I think it's best to go to the next session of the open discussion.
Okay, thank you, Martin. And then I will just pass directly to Eva to continue with the next session. Let's use it as also as an open dialogue, or the name of the session itself. It's an open dialogue, so we can really take the chance and discuss a bit more. Eva, the floor to you. I don't see you at the moment, but yeah.
Maybe if I'm starting, I will start talking. Then
yeah, I see you.
You will see me.
Yeah.
So now we have a sort of 30 minutes to do an open dialogue, but I thought that the open dialogue will maybe be a little bit difficult if we don't give all our participants and audience today the 10 focus standards to reflect upon. So I was just trying to copy the 10 focus standards into the chat to see. So that works. And I see already a question in the chat. So maybe, Orinda, you could address that one. And for all the participants, these are the 10 standards that you will find in our different or sort of separate framework, and also with an explanation of what we think of when looking at these standards. Maybe it's for you a first time, because I can imagine that it's a lot of information you're hearing now and you're seeing on the screen. Thank you, Sylvia, for being so fully. But that is a lot of information to process. So I can imagine that it will take some time, but maybe there are some reflections. Then at the end of this, I would say this part of the conference, you have some reflections you want to share with us. So I'm looking forward to that. But for now, I will start with some reflections in the beginning of our technical advisory board or technical expert group. I'm kind of lost in how we're calling them now. And Orina, if I've seen it correctly, I don't see everyone attending that we thought would attend, but I know that my Dutch colleagues, Koosje, she is here, and Stephanie is also here. So maybe for me, it's kind of easy to start with them. And I haven't even introduced myself and just started talking, but I'm Eva Huls. I'm an attorney at Defense for Children International, the Netherlands, and I'm also a substitute judge in the courts of Rotterdam and Amsterdam, children's judge. And I've worked on this project as well. And I wanted to thank Ms. Velina Todorova for her opening statement. And I was very already in my own reflection, when we're calling the individual assessment a tool, it could be a tool and it could help us maybe identify the gaps also in our child welfare system. That this was already a discussion in the beginning. Is it a tool or is it a process? What is the individual assessment exactly? And what is the scope? And is the scope for every misdemeanor or every offense the same? Is the scope the same for victims as it is for child suspects? Should it be? Should it be holistic? Can we make it holistic for those two different groups of children coming into contact with the law? And how are we going to do that? Because there are different sets of principles that apply in a criminal procedure. For instance, the best interest of the child and also hearing the child, but also the right to a fair trial, and how to combine those principles together in one set in an individual assessment. So it's very interesting already. I had some more questions, but maybe to start off with Koosje, you are a practitioner in the Netherlands, you're a youth justice lawyer. And I would like to ask you, maybe you have one of the standards that you see still is maybe challenging or also provides opportunity to develop further.
Yeah, thank you, Eva.
Sorry, just a moment. On the Dutch channel, we recently cannot hear any of the interpreters. Please, can any of you continue? Sorry, the floor is yours back.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I don't see Eva anymore, but thank you for organizing this and for inviting me. And I was very honored to be a part of the technical advice board during this process, this focus process. And I think it's very worthwhile, especially the process of bringing the directives, breathe life in the directives, and now also breathe life in, well, what is the individual assessment, and how can we use it, and how should we build on it? And I think one of the things who came up in at first in my mind when reflecting on the last 2 years was I also was part of the pilot training, and I think that is a very important way of bringing more life in those directives and in the goals of the directives, especially because the training is built for the different professionals. And in that way, you are challenged to look at the process of the tool of the individual assessment from the different scopes, because the child is in the middle with other professionals around him, and we all have the same goal, but we have a different role. And I think where it comes together in my role as a youth lawyer, it's of course the juridical, the rights of the child and the needs of the child, and how do you bring that together? And then you have to find each other there to bring it to a higher level and to understand each other. And last week I was in another session, and it was about how can you identify the disability of a child, and it was focused on the police officers who do the interrogation. But as a lawyer, your role is to protect the child during the interrogation. So you have to know the same knowledge, and you have to know the child where you're working with, and you have to come together to fulfill that goal. So I think one of the main goals is that that training tool and the multidisciplinary of it. And I think one of the challenges will be how to bring this alive and how to get the awakening by everybody, all the professionals on the floor who in the end has to work with this. And how to find each other and how to keep this alive and bring much more alive, not only in the directives, but also in the individual assessments and so also in the standards who are developed in here.
Yeah, I think that's always quite the challenge to have these standards in theory, and then you have to apply them in practice. And especially when multiple professionals are involved to do it in a collaborative way to serve the best interest of the child. I am actually, because I think Ines Cirovic, if I hope I pronounce your name correctly, but from UNICEF, you're a child protective officer, right? And I think, yeah, I see you now in my screen. Yes. So hearing this and collaboration, multidisciplinary, but also maybe seeing the 10 standards, I'm very interested in your point of view. So maybe you could reflect upon them as well.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for inviting me and for hosting this great event. I'm really also happy to be part of this team and to have been involved in the whole duration of the project. And in Serbia, I see also, like, as always, we discuss the issue of sustainability, and we have been working on justice for children reform for almost a decade now. And over the years, we established some multi-sectoral teams in local communities. So it first started in 4 towns, 4 local communities, and then we spread in another like 7. Due to COVID, we somehow it was more difficult in one moment. But then, so I thought that these multi-sectoral teams that are consisted of prosecutors, judges, social welfare professionals should be the core to do the individual assessment. And they should be further, some of them also participated in this training that was delivered through the Focus project, but also we should continue with these teams. That was also the recommendation of the Juvenile Justice Council, which is a multi-sectoral body established here like some 10 years ago, also by the Ministry of Justice and the Supreme Court of Cassation, which is consisted again of judicial and social welfare professionals, of representatives of also not only judiciary, prosecutors and judges, but also ministries of justice, social welfare and interior. So that the recommendation of this event was also to encourage all local communities to establish these sort of teams, which is because I think the best way to deal with the children is at the local level. Of course, we need to strengthen the whole system, but every town should identify somehow its opportunities and what are the programs available in the community. It varies, it's always different, of course. Some like principles should be the same, of course, but then we should spread this network and have many professionals involved. And here we have a big issue with children who are in conflict with mental health problems. So for sure, this team should always have this mental health perspective in mind, and should contact mental health professionals and think of those psychosocial support and all other support that they may need for both offenders and victims. Also very important is what has been already said, is like capacity building of all those professionals, like specialized trainings, but also like multi-sectoral trainings, and focus on lawyers who are defending children, because they are those who are advising children, who are communicating with them and actually leading them through this process. And of course, the focus should be always with the family to assess the strengths of the family and what are like the risks and protective factors, and then focus on those, like somehow like mitigate with the risk factor and focus how to work more on those protective factors, and try to see what is the potential of the child, and then expand it further. So that is how I see like individual assessment operationalized in even without some further amendment of the legal framework. I think there is the basis so that we can do it here.
Thank you, Ines. That is quite a comprehensive view, and I think I can sort of reflect upon what you said in the beginning of the properly resource and sustainability also from these kind of new processes. I think that multiple countries will face this challenge if the process is sustainable, and if there is enough resources also for all those professionals. I see a few hands already, so I will certainly come to you. I just wanted to give the floor to Stephanie Rapp. She's here, she's an assistant professor. And I am very curious because Ms. Velina told about maybe we need a new paradigm when it comes to penal justice. And I know that Stephanie, as an assistant professor of forensic psychology, I'm very curious. I don't see her in my screen right now, but maybe Stephanie, if you start talking, I can see you.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Please, if you see the 10 standards and you've been involved as well as a trainer in our, the last 2 years actually. So I'm very curious to your reflections.
Thank you. Thank you also for the invitation to reflect on the standards. And my research expertise is in the field of child participation, and I think it's very good to see that you have involved various participation standards, actually also focusing on child-sensitive justice and justice that is adapted to children. I think in individual assessments, child participation could have a clear position, because it can give children the opportunity to be heard also by the person who is conducting this individual assessment, and that they can feel that they are taken seriously also in the process by being able to tell their story and to also explain what the difficulties are that they face in their life. Another side of this is also, I think, that the individual assessment can also be used as an opportunity to give information to children and young people, information about the procedures that they are involved in, and also information about the possible outcomes of the process, whether that be in a penal context or in a child protection context. Research shows that it is very important for children to receive information, because that will decrease their feelings of stress and anxiety also about being involved in the process. Also, I think in relation to involving children and young people, it's very important, and I think it has been stressed before as well, that professionals are trained properly, also in having conversations with children, so to make them feel at ease when you start this conversation, to explain about confidentiality, for example, but also to have a child-friendly setting in which you have this conversation or this assessment, so that young people and children feel safe in this environment, although they have to speak to a person that, this is probably someone they don't know before. This safe environment can help them to open up and to really speak about what is happening in their life and where they might need help with. Also relatedly is the fact that a support person can be very helpful for them, someone they trust, someone they know, that they can bring to this meeting that they have with someone who is doing this individual assessment, and can really support them in the process. I think what I also learned from being involved in this project is the insight that individual assessment can have different scopes and different goals also, depending on the procedure, but also the way it's perceived by people. But I think we have to look beyond the idea that it is only an instrument to gain information and to being an instrument that is helpful for the procedure only, because we can give children a voice and an opportunity to be heard through the individual assessment as well. And I hope that this will be taken on by many countries and also the partners in this project to involve in their developments of individual assessments. So that is what I wanted to contribute, and I look forward to any questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. Just before I go to Bruno and Velina, I wanted to have Esmeralda also in my screen from Romania. And I know, Esmeralda, you are quite the expert when it comes to social assistance. So we have covered some ground already, but maybe there's something you would like to add to what has been said.
Great, thank you for naming me. Hello, everyone. And I'm really glad to be with you as partners involved in the project, and also together with the participants interested in the results obtained in our project. First of all, congratulations to the entire project team for their determination to complete such a challenging project in an even more challenging time. And I am glad to see also among the participants the Romanian professionals, and I would like to say many thanks to them, to also many thanks to the coordination team from Dom Romania, and also to the colleagues who supported us in the relationship with the children and young people from the detention centers that constituted our child advisory board. Hello, Elena. Well, I would like to name some of, I don't know, two main results of the Focus project. And first of the result is related with the fact that the project actually provided specialist professionals with a series of tools and also resources designed to support their work in the process of individual assessment of children. And here we are including the Focus standards. And in parallel, the children were informed about their rights to an individual assessment, and also they had the opportunity to participate in all stages of our project, because they were also our child advisory board. And I'd like to name some opinions of Romanian children and young people involved in our child advisory board. And I remember that one of them said, I'm not sure if it's exactly that, he was a boy, said that those who committed a crime or something bad need even more counseling, because otherwise they will relapse the crime. And doesn't the sick person need a doctor? That's why we need a specialized professional to work with us. And well, I had in mind some of their words, but in that moment I totally forgot.
It's all right. We're already running out of time, actually. So
okay.
If you have a last sort of sound bite for the rest of us to take with us.
Well, all of us know that the individual assessment is the first step toward the child-oriented justice, and it allows professionals to focus on the needs and strengths of the child. So actually, it's not an end now, the project, and probably it's only a stage for the next steps.
That's an idea I like very much. Thank you so much, Esmeralda.
Thank you.
Just to conclude, because then I know I have the TAP members who are here, and that is Nelly. Nelly, you are here from Bulgaria, and maybe you have some reflections for us as well.
Здравейте! Аз бих предпочела да говоря на български и благодаря за тази възможност. Надявам се да преводът да бъде добър и да мога да споделя с вас своите мисли. Този проект за нас беше така, няколко неща ми се иска да кажа. Първото е, че той ни даде възможност да споделим къде сме. В България ние от години като организация работим за прилагане на индивидуалната оценка по директивата за минималните стандарти за жертвите. И вече имаме една добра практика, която е свързана с изработване на мултидисциплинарна интегрирана оценка. Ние наричаме интегрирана, защото тя служи едновременно за това да помогне на детето да участва в правни процедури, да се прецени какви мерки да се вземат. На следващо място тя помага на системата за закрила, ако е необходимо да се предприемат мерки за закрила. И тъй като оценката е процес, тя продължава и по посока на това да подкрепи интервенциите, които ще са насочени към възстановяване, към терапия, към връщане на детето към нормалните детски неща, които би трябвало да прави. Така че за нас това беше една добра възможност да сверим, да чуем, да разберем, да участваме, да предоставим, да обсъждаме. На следващо място този проект ни даде наистина още една възможност да обменим мисли с партньорите, да се срещнем отново с съдии, прокурори, полицаи и да мислим как тези добри практики, защото отварям скоба, в България това у нас е голямо предизвикателство, ние развиваме добри практики и е изключително трудно те да станат национални.
I'm just going to interrupt you because I think that the English translation is not properly working, which means that you are, I think, telling us very interesting information, but we don't.
Can I try in English? I'm sorry. Okay. Firstly, first of all, I want to share with you that for us this project was very interesting and very useful. Because we have a possibility to share our experience, and I say that we have some good practices in the field of implementing directive of minimal standards for the victims, and we have practiced last maybe 10 years, and I say that in Bulgaria we have many very well good practices as a pilot practices, but not enough implementing to become the national practices. And the second, this project serves us, permits us to continue to discuss standards and tools and with our partners, because we implement individual assessment for participation, child participation in legal procedure, for also measures, protection measure if it's necessary, and also for developing different interventions to therapy to recovering child. And this project opened the space to continue this discuss. And even now we're thinking about creating a tool for individual assessment for children suspecting, in the same time integrating in framework tool for individual assessment. And Velina said that absolutely it is our opinion that the individual assessment have to be integrated and oriented to the protection, to the legal procedures and recovering. Thank you, and sorry for my English.
Thank you, Nelly. We could understand everything, so
I hope
don't
so.
worry about it. Thank you so much. I think I will first go to Velina because you've raised your hand, so I'm quite curious. Maybe you have a question or a comment on what has been told and said.
Yeah, it's my turn? Thank you, because I was putting my headphones, I couldn't hear the last one. Thank you very much. I'll be very, very brief because the time is already we are beyond the time. So I'm first of all to say I'm very happy to be able to hear from judges, from child judges. This has been our dream, and actually the committee very often recommends the state parties to create specific courts or judges dealing with children. I strongly believe, not as a member, but as a national lawyer and advocate, that we need specialized structures in the judiciary, courts, not courts, but the special judges to deal with children. This is the first safeguard. And I would like very much to reflect on your questions. These were very challenging, because within our project in Bulgaria, we have been thinking a lot. We gave a lot of thought. What is the individual assessment? A tool or a process? And how it relates to the rights to fair trial of children. And I have one question to you. I will try to tell you what we are thinking, but I have a question to you. How do you consider the individual assessment? Could we go a little bit further and to claim that it is a right of a child? Finally, it's too early. Okay, let's go back to tool or process. We think that it is the individual assessment is both a tool because it helps to serve the needs, and not only procedural, but also needs for reintegration, protection, etc. It is a process because the needs of children develop. These procedures sometimes take a long time, and the child changes, and so his or her needs. I think that the individual assessment is a very necessary safeguard for all fair trial rights of the child in the process. Listening, interrogation, right to information, right to legal aid, everything actually very much depends on a good quality, multidisciplinary individual assessment. And my last question to you is, we saw a conflict. We were thinking about that, and to other colleagues that spoke about listening to children, hearing children. We should divide in the penal justice hearing and interrogation, and there is a big risk of conflict if the child is heard at the very beginning, let's say by the police. There should be a clear procedural safeguards that what the child's opinion shouldn't be used as a proof. The child shouldn't be put in the position to incriminate him or herself, because it is already a very big risk in the context of penal proceedings. Thank you very much. Sorry for the time. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Velina. I'm going to chew on your questions, certainly in the break. But before we go to the break, I will give the floor to Bruno, because you've already raised your hand quite some time. So please.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. And it's really nice to see so many familiar faces to be working together. And it's really been a pleasure to work alongside Velina in the Child-Friendly Justice project. Just very briefly. So one thing that we noticed from the Child-Friendly Justice project is individual assessment might look very different depending on the situation that the child finds. It might look much different if the child is a victim or a suspect, and then the process itself will need to be adapted depending on the particular situation of children. It might look very different if the child is residing in alternative care. It might look very different if it's an accompanied child, or if it's a child that actually has an intellectual or psychosocial disabilities. Depending on that particular situation, even that individual assessment itself, the rules might change a little bit. Just to give you a few examples of things we've noticed from this project. For example, for unaccompanied children, for example, the the room where the child might be hearing. It might be useful due to cultural differences. Make sure there's no religious symbols. Also, the gender of the professional that's actually conducting the individual assessment might be relevant. Some children might be more comfortable, depending on cultural differences, with a male professional or female. It really depends. There's also a lot of differences when it comes to children with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities, because then you really have to prepare the hearing, let's say, with a lot of time. Make sure there's appropriate breaks. Make sure the style of communication is very simple, because we talk a lot of the need for simple language, but this might not necessarily be the same when it comes to speaking with children with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities. It might be a need to simplify the language even further, just to make sure the accessibility is achieved. I mean, I think the key word definitely for our project, and which I've heard from a lot of speakers here, Stephanie, Nelly, Velina as well, is the key is really just to use how to use the individual assessment process to enable participation of children, and what that participation will look like and what kind of measures are necessary. This individual assessment then is going to be really, really important. Make sure that all the barriers are identified, and then all the supportive measures to make sure they can participate are actually in place. And of course, we also notice other specific issues, like Velina mentioned, how to make sure that this process isn't actually abused in a way that's actually used against the child, especially when looking at directive of children procedural safeguards. You might notice conflicting objectives for the individual assessment, because you have individual assessment for education, protection, but then you also have individual assessment to determine the sentence. And then you really run the risk of some data or factors that might look beneficial, and then in the end just ended up being used for punishment. These are just more broadly our thoughts and food for thought, but it's something that we're going to be continuing working on Child-Friendly Justice Project. We're going to be organizing a lot of international labs or webinars on specific topic in April, and it will be a pleasure to invite all of you to just go into depth in all of these questions and continue working together with Telesom and all the partners in the Focus project. It's been doing brilliant work, and we can't wait to continue working together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bruno. I think you have a lot of interesting things to say. I'm looking forward to the labs and to the webinars you're going to organize. I think you're totally right when it comes to a tailored approach. Sometimes you have a sort of unified guarantees you want to have in different countries, and that was what Rebecca was mentioning already. These are the cornerstones, maybe at the foundation of starting these processes, but that doesn't mean that it should be general for every child, because every child is different and has his or her specific needs, and that means that you still have to be flexible and to apply this tailored approach to every child. So thank you so much for your input. Orinda, I'm looking at you because our schedule has been mixed up now. So
no, yeah, I think we just start just a few minutes over time, but we can take a 15 minutes break and come back at 4:05. It's less than 15, but it will be a good break because we processed lots of information, a lot of documents has been shared, a lot of like good discussions. So let's take this break and come back at 4:05. And thank you to you for this great moderation of this session. Thank you, and see you all after the break.
We just wait a little.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. Maybe it was too intense, the first part, so we just give a couple of minutes to everyone to to get back and we start. And then we can catch up the time for the questions and answers and maybe use that as well. Thank you.
Fine. Hello, slowly people are coming back. We are waiting 1-2 more minutes before we really start again.
Yes, and okay, so
yeah, is the translation everywhere settled again?
We need to, there is no no translation in Albanian, no. I just saw this in the chat now. It should be fine, and I see that Silvia also is back, and I have to check if Rebecca is with us as well, so that we can start this second part. Okay. So Welcome back to this second part of our conference. I'm very happy and glad because the first part, it was quite intense, but was really good. And I have to thank everyone for their inputs, contribution, and all the ideas that were exchanged. So to not just take more minutes from our agenda, I will just go with a session on the roadmap for progress, and I will invite my colleague Annemieke, who will be moderating, to just take the floor and to continue with the discussion. Thank you, Annemieke.
Thank you, Orinda. Thank you all for being back, and I'm impressed already with the visual mates. It's really improving, and we try to improve individual assessment processes, but that is also at the heart of your visual. Thanks. I hope to see it later totally finished, but I'm already happy to see this. Maybe we can see all of our faces again. Is Velina still with us? Because I would like to come back to this important question: is individual assessment a right? Is it actually a child right?
I'm here.
Good. It's not an easy question to answer, but since I'm working a lot in the field of restorative justice, I did a little bit of thinking myself, is restorative justice, for example, a child's right? And I, after research, conclude yes. And I think the reasoning can be a bit similar here. Also, individual assessments are a government obligation if you look at the directives and at the other international instruments. Yeah, I conclude then that everyone should have access to it. If you use it, it should be done in a child-centered way. But the children, first of all, should have the right to be examined if the use of an individual assessment in their case is useful. You know, we can decide as professionals, like, okay, here we better cannot do it, but in principle, they should have access to it. That's my reasoning. But I'm curious to hear what others think. I also saw in the chat a question like if individual assessments for child victims are the same as for child suspects. That's of course also an interesting question. The directives state that both need to have individual assessments. In practice, we see similar ways of working, but also differences. So a question that we come back to later on as well. And I invite also the other colleagues to come back to that. What are we going to do in this session? We are working on the roadmap for strengthening individual assessment processes. What we developed also during our 2-year projects is what steps can be followed to make progress, because all these aspects that we and the standards we mentioned are interrelated. But how can we make sure that the 4 areas of progress that we identified, first of all, promoting awareness, second, improving the system, how can our juvenile or youth justice system, but also the child protection system improve to be able to work well with individual assessments? How can we actually build more capacity and knowledge among professionals, and how, last but not least, can we empower children better to take a part in this area? Rebecca O'Donnell will present this roadmap, how we developed it, and for the 4 areas of progress. And afterwards, Sylvia will continue explaining what we did in the piloting phase. Okay, give you the floor, Rebecca.
Great, thank you, Annemieke. And perhaps, if it's okay, I will share my screen, but not to take too long on the PowerPoint, but really just to give us a little bit of a framework. Let's see. Again, our job here is really to invite you to think about how you can use our tools to make progress in your countries from whatever perspective you believe progress needs to be made and can be made. So we had what we called a roadmap. And again, encouraging you to look at that document, which is newly published but still being translated, I think, and those translations will be available very soon. But it's a place where we gathered together just a description of what we've been doing and how we've been doing it, but also how we really feel what we've learned can be put to the service of others. The partners, as we said, went through piloting processes, went through discussions in their countries. So Sylvia is also going to join in this presentation to reflect on what was fed back from piloting. And we saw, as Annemieke anticipated, that there are, we broke it into 4 steps. The first one being promoting awareness of individual assessments and the need to engage in them and what they are. It's great to see the lively debate on whether or not it's a right or if it's something that serves the authorities or the criminal investigation. Because I think, in fact, it is, unsurprisingly, I think it is a right. Unsurprisingly, I think, in fact, it's precisely there to serve the rights of the children and not really to serve much else. I don't see an individual assessment as feeding into a criminal investigation. And in fact, for example, when we have child victims, we need precisely to be very careful in the conversations we have with children in assessing their needs, because you don't want to get into the territory that is what would serve as testimony ultimately. You need to stay away from that territory. And arguably also when children are suspects, the conversations you're having to assess their needs shouldn't really serve the investigation. They're there to really assess what does the child need as they go through this process. How do we take into account that they are a child to make sure that the safeguards that they have a right to are in place. So anyway, I'll stop there. There are 3 other steps. Obviously, having promoted awareness, we also talk about how do you go about improving the system? How do you build specialized knowledge? And empowering children is a cross-cutting issue. Promoting awareness, this is a very sophisticated slide. As we said, you just really regularly need to engage with a broad range of actors. You need to have the type of conversations we're having now. And we, in the roadmap, just point to the fact that there are lots of resources to help people initiate these conversations and have these conversations. And really, we'd encourage everyone here to take every opportunity you can to have the conversation. It's such a misunderstood area. People think it's, as we said, innocuous, tick the box, but it's not. It's a process. It's a system. Over to you, Sylvia, maybe on what we heard.
Yeah, just Thank you, Rebecca. Just to add on this, indeed, we wanted to also report some of the feedback we received from the piloting, the training activities we did in the implementing countries. And on promoting awareness, we just report here just 2 quotes from Greece, from the Netherlands, but among many other inputs and feedback, and just they reflect exactly what we've been hearing for the past couple of hours, and now from Rebecca about promoting awareness. So even though we have all the instruments and we have a legal framework, the European directive, and also at national level, often we already do have some instruments that provide the need for individual assessment, but on the other side, it's evident really from these 2 years of work that a lot of awareness raising still needs to be done among different professional stakeholders, policymakers. For example, here we our colleagues in the Netherlands mentioned the victim support services, the police, the prosecution office that, of course, have already many inspired professionals among them, but still a lot of work of really emphasizing how crucial and key opener is the individual assessment for a child-friendly justice is, and then needs to be done.
Right.
Back to you, Rebecca.
And then, I mean, as we said, the second step, unsurprisingly, about moving towards improving the system as a whole, the underlying system that supports the individual practice. So to improve the system, the first step is to identify challenges and opportunities. And if you go into the technical interface, you'll see the mapping tool we used in each of the countries to really identify what is in place. And interestingly, of course, now when you do that mapping, in most countries you have to map what happens to a child victim and what happens to a child suspect or accused. Hopefully down the line, you'll just be mapping what happens to a child, in terms of an individual assessment. We really do think there should be a process that serves both categories of child or children in both situations. Having seen what opportunities arise from the challenges you undoubtedly will notice, then you move into a stage when we believe everyone should be planning progress together. So bringing together stakeholders. You may have opportunities to do this in standing conversations that you have, or annual conferences that you have, or discussions in professional bodies that you have focused on children. There is a document called the Focus Reference Table for Progress. And that kind of sets out, you may be here, there may be a clear law, but there may not be procedures. There may be a clear law and procedures, but there may not be practice. So we tried to kind of show a number of different stages of development that you might be at. And if you are at this stage of development, then maybe the next step is XYZ, or you may be a bit further down the road, and then we have other suggestions about what you need to do or could think about doing. It's just really, it's obviously common sense, but it allows you a quick frame of reference. And the pilot planning tool is a way to identify what kinds of activities could help you get where you go to. Now, elephant in the room, do you have resources to plan any kinds of activities? But we hope that these tools at least give you a shortcut if you do have some small capacity to allow you to do what's useful.
Или пък имате ли на капацитет, например?
So then, if you are able to plan something, then we have the tools that can help you take the action. And we just have, if everyone could go on mute, it would be great. Sorry to ask. I know nobody means not to be on mute. And then monitoring and review is the final step.
Evelina?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. I wish we were all in the room together, but unfortunately we have this. So monitoring and review, part of what we're saying in terms of improving the system is really constantly keeping your eye on it and, coming back together to see what the next steps are. So we think the self-assessment or the reflection tool can help in that regard. Sylvia.
Yes, so indeed these suggestions and recommendations that you just mentioned, Rebecca, come from some of the feedback, mostly of course they come from the feedback we received from Serbia, Romania, Netherlands, Greece, and Bulgaria in the course of the piloting. So for example, here just really a few examples from what we got. One of the main issues reported, and here it's reported in Serbia, but we can definitely see it everywhere else, is the a lack of effective multi-sectoral cooperation. So this is the lack of multidisciplinarity and cooperation among different professionals in the individual assessment process, and the use of tools that already are maybe existing is one of the main issues, the recurrent issues that we try to focus in the project, and that was also very much appreciated during the training and the piloting activities. This really bringing together professionals and stakeholders from different backgrounds and different perspectives in the protection of the child. Another issue, of course, that came and that was very interestingly mentioned already in the keynote speech by Velina Todorova is still the focus on a punitive approach it's still too often and in too many countries, too many systems, if not everywhere, but there is still a tendency to punish instead of really like protecting and reintegrating and providing the child with the appropriate response to the crime. And then also, so the last quote we have that is from the Netherlands. So stakeholders during the project realized that one problem was that individual assessment does not happen in all phases of the proceedings. So they really started to understand that it should be more of also a process, as you said before. So something that is done if needed throughout the proceeding in different phases to assess also the change in the needs of the child. I see Velina raised you raised your hand, maybe if you want to.
I'm very sorry to intervene. Just one sentence in the context of what you have just commented. In Bulgaria, we think that actually lawyers and judges really have the leading role here. They have all the power to guide, to govern the process, and they have to be thought and motivated, and they have all the power. Someone told from Serbia that perhaps we don't need so many innovations in the law, but if we have active judges that understand the value of the individual assessment and for the process and for the rights of the child, maybe they could be the leader for this coordination to happen. And that's it. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, and sorry for the time.
No, thank you, Velina. Yeah, indeed, I think they are at least included in this multi-sectoral cooperation for sure. Thanks for this note. I give back the floor to Rebecca. No.
Yeah, and just to say, in another project, My Lawyers, My Rights, we were really focusing attention of lawyers on the fact that there is this right, and if they should be advocating for it to be properly fulfilled. So I totally agree. And judges, should be asking to see how this is done. So absolutely. And this is exactly the kind of conversations we want to spark now, and hope that people will think, well, who can be a champion for doing any of this? And we hope you can take the roadmap back to different countries and elsewhere in Europe to see exactly who can take it forward. Building specialized knowledge, many capacity building resources is all I had to say on this slide, because of course Sylvia already showed us the technical interface. And really what we're saying is, if you have a system in place, you also need to have specialized practitioners, people who can actually really do this well. And so over to Sylvia in terms of what we heard about that.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. And again, I think there is a bit of recurrent kind of sort of feedback from the countries we worked in, and it applies also in sorry, there is some still background noise. Thank you for muting yourself. Thanks a lot. So there is still, we see again how among certain groups of professionals, but also in general, when we talk about child justice, we can see often a tendency to stigmatize, accuse and suspect children of children suspects or accused of a crime, instead of really taking an approach that aims at assessing their needs and respond in the most appropriate way. But something that was interesting here, for example, from Bulgaria, is that it's true that what was observed during the training, and I can say not necessarily not only in Bulgaria, but it's interesting as a quote, that individual assessment at first, when we arrived with our training and tools, etc., was seen in a way as an additional burden, as an additional workload for professionals, while when they started to listen and to understand the key role, the key importance of these tools and process of individual assessment, then they also started to really reduce the expectations about themselves, and to, in a way, to understand that it's a teamwork, and then many professionals really need to receive more specialized training and to work together to be more efficient on that. I'll give it back to you, Rebecca.
Yeah, I mean, we are about to go into one of the most important sessions in this event, the empowering children and hearing from children. But obviously, we have as our fourth step, and it's not the last step, it should be we had a wheel to show that it should inform everything and it should come back to it. But there is a need to develop structures to work together with children and youngsters and really hear about what works best. During our COVID workshops, we were, very interested to hear, well, if we can't talk, if we need to reach out to children through, if we can't see them, what are the tools, what are the digital tools that you can continue to reach out to children on? There was some very interesting discussions on whether some children were finding it easier to be in remote courts. So we learned a lot, but we need to be engaging children for any of this to be effective. So again, just to say, the roadmap points to a range of resources, and it's also useful to underline that the EU strategy on the rights of the child that was adopted last year really prioritizes this. And there's a lot of resources going in that should be available to all. So it's a good moment and a necessary moment to insist on it. But maybe over to Sylvia on what we heard on this.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. And indeed, as you said, now we are going to leave the floor to the children that they were involved in the project, some of them, and to listen from the partners what happened in terms of child participation. So I will leave you a moment to read these quotes, but I really don't want to add much more on that. And I'm pleased to really hear from the people directly involved what was the feedback, and the main thing for sure we can say is that children involved in the CABs, in the Child Advisory Board, they share with us a lot of knowledge, and on the other side they also learned a lot about their rights and the importance of child justice, and the importance of also children's rights and child justice rights to be included in their education and in their continuous training as young citizens. So I'll leave it to that, and I'll get back to you, Rebecca or Annemieke.
I think straight back to Annemieke. But look, and I hope, just the only word I would add is that I hope we will all find ways to continue to exchange and learn from each other, because we're at a moment in a project where we're kind of handing on mutual learnings, but conscious that there's so much more under development and so much more to learn. At an early stage in this project, we said this is, pioneering work, simply in the terms that they're new obligations at EU level. So, hopefully that it'll mature quickly. Back to Annemieke. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sylvia. Thanks, Rebecca, for this input. Very important that these tools, especially also the reference table for process and the pilot planning tool, what they can enable the professionals in the different countries too. But indeed, we are going to talk more about empowering children by listening to young people in our project. I would like to know if there are urgent questions or comments still to be made on this in this area, and if there are still other regional recommendations to be made. I'm looking around.
And maybe I could just add, and I hate to do this, but just to add that we did, in our mutual learning, you will see recommendations that we have suggested from the focus partners. And largely, we're pointing to initiatives at European level that carry with them the seeds for further action. So again, I won't take time on them, precisely because we want you to read the document. So let's do a teaser for the document and the mysterious recommendations we're making.
Indeed, we need to get you into going to our technical system and to go through all the reports and tools made. But the most important part is actually what we are going to share now. I think yes. I give the floor back to Linda.
Thank you, Annemieke, and thank you to Rebecca and Silvia for the great work you've done with Focus. And until now, in this first part, actually, we heard about the documents, the tools, the set of practical tools and resources that are for professionals, for children. But as you said, what comes is now in the session is what we did with children. So I would just like to pass the floor to my colleague Panayota from Greece, from Terdesom, Greece. She will be moderating this last session on the children's empowerment, and all our colleagues will share also the work that has been done with the child advisory boards. And I also would like to just now thank, because I see that we have Philip, we have Natalia, we have Bora, and also the girls that are there with Petya. So I'd like to thank all of them for being with us today, and I'd like to just invite them to be until the end, because we will have also an interesting part at the very end where we could also have some conversation or short conversation and sharing some, let's say, impressions or some feedback from the work that they have had with us during these 2 years. But Panayota, the floor is yours. I'll leave it to you. I don't see you, but I think I will once you start to talk.
Thank you, Orinda. Hello to everyone, and thank you for joining us in this conference. I'm here to present the establishment of our child advisory boards, widely known as CABs. As you might know, Article 12 of the CRC provides that the state's parties shall assure the child who is capable of forming his or her own views the right to express these views freely in all the decisions affecting him or her. And these views must be given due weight in accordance with the age and the maturity of the child. For this purpose, the child shall in particular be provided with the opportunity to be heard in any judicial and administrative proceedings affecting him or her, either directly or through a representative or an appropriate body, in a manner consistent with the procedural laws, rules of the national laws. In Focus Project, when we say with children, we mean it. One of the pillars of the project was to build the knowledge of children regarding their rights in the criminal justice system and to empower them to be agents of change and advocates for child-centered justice. The child advisory boards, composed of approximately 10 children with or without experience from the justice system. One board was established in every partner country: Bulgaria, Greece, Netherlands, Romania, and Serbia. Children were trained about their rights, they were empowered to advocate about them, and they were involved in designing, training, advocacy activities, development of child-friendly materials. They had a really important advisory role in the creation of the tools They took part in trainings focusing on public speaking, on disseminating ideas through media. They created and implemented their own campaigns in order to raise awareness on children's rights and and they improved their skills. They participated in advocacy events and they met specialized professionals. Working with the Child Advisory Board gave us the opportunity, it's been a very rich, rewarding experience for everyone. It gave us the opportunity to youth-proof the materials, and the children contributed ideas that help us to understand how to achieve the child-friendly and child-centered justice. There's no one more appropriate or competent to advise us on issues of child-friendly justice from the children rather than the children themselves. So I will start by passing the floor to my colleagues from Serbia to present their work with the Child Advisory Board.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we see.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Velina Todorova, and I'm from Child Rights Center in Serbia, and I will briefly present you the work of the Child Advisory Board in Serbia. CAB meetings started in May 2020 and till the December of 2021. CAB met 23 times, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the CAB meetings were organized in accordance with the government recommendations. So most of them were organized online, but also some of them were organized in person. And the topic of this meeting is and was very important to children in Serbia because of the fact that most of them are not properly informed about their rights. So the CAB members also invited their peers to these sessions. So that's why a total number of 372 participants took part in these sessions. And the training sessions on public speaking and creating key messages with the aim to encourage creative means of expression and to improve public speaking skills of CAB members were also conducted. And during these workshops, participants practice how to define key messages about child-friendly justice, and moreover, they learn techniques for connecting with the audience. And all of these techniques were later on used in CAB meetings and during the creation of child-friendly materials. And also a workshop on child safeguarding was organized with CAB members. And the members of the CAB contributed to the creation of the video individual assessment of children in contact with the law. And that video was created in order to inform children and young people about the rights they have if they come into contact with the justice system. And the special focus of this video was on individual assessment of the child, and it shows the importance of the multidisciplinary individual assessment of the child who comes into contact with the law as victim, witness, or offender. And in addition to being intended for children and youth, it can also be useful for justice system professionals. And now I will show you part of this video, and later on I will put link into the chat. Sorry. So can you see it?
Yes, I can see.
Deca nisu mini ljudska bića sa mini ljudskim pravima. Savet Evrope.
Mnogo je razloga zbog kojih dete može da dođe u kontakt sa zakonom kao učinilac, žrtva ili svedok krivičnog dela. Ovo može da bude neprijatno i traumatično iskustvo, ali ne mora uvek tako da bude. Svako dete treba da bude upoznato sa svojim pravima, a stručnjaci koji su u kontaktu sa decom treba da deluju zajedno u najboljem interesu deteta. Pravosudni sistem treba da bude prilagođen deci, što znači da treba da osluškuje njihove potrebe i garantuje svakom detetu individualni pristup bez traumatizacije ili etiketiranja.
I hope you like this short part of it, and I hope that you will look at the whole video afterwards. So I will just go back to my presentation. Sorry, I have some small problem. Can you see my presentation now, or?
Yes, we can.
Because I can't see it. Okay, so now a part of that animated video, the COB members also participated in the creation of a digital platform called Child Friendly Justice. Their children and young people can get information about their rights in the case they come into contact with the justice system. And also at the same time, this platform can be a resource for their parents, guardians, and also to professionals working with them. And now I will share the platform with you also. So here, can you see it?
Yes, we see it.
So this platform contains basic information about the concept of the child-friendly justice, the most common reasons why children come into contact with the law, and the rights that they have if they come to contact with the law as victims, offenders, or witnesses. And so people can find all necessary information on this platform, and also it contains information materials related to the topic that were also produced in a cooperation with children. So this resource is also really useful for children, their parents, and professionals. And now, sorry for all of this. So you see my presentation now?
Yes.
And now I will give the floor to the two CAB members, Philip and Natalia, and they will present the events where they participated. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natalia Cvetkovic, and I'm from Serbia. I would like to say that excuse me for the noise. I went to National Parliament. We were called there so we can share our experiences and tell us our story to them. When we say National Parliament, we always think about something like adult world, like there are politicians there and parliament members, but they took their time and listened to us, to our problems, what we have on our minds, our opinions, and no small problem or anything of our thoughts. It is not small. They listened to us, they heard us, and even some of the politicians took right in there the numbers and helped to solve the problem right there. They already had an ideas, they already tried to help us. And what I want to say is that it is important for us as the children to speak our minds and for adults to hear us, to hear our problems and what we can say. Maybe we have even a solution. I talked about what we have done in Child Rights Center, how advocacy has a great contribution in the world for children, and our opinion is very important, and how we can contribute. I spoke from child in a law process or any justice process to any ecology contribution they may have, their ideas, their projects, and I was very grateful for that experience. Thank you. Philip?
Philip, yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. Hello, people. My name is Philip. I'm from Belgrade, from Serbia. And yes, as Natalia mentioned, we had these events with the National Assembly. In the project period, I was honored to be present during the two of them on the International Days of Children. And yes, I would agree with Natalia. This was a really positive experience, really positive move forward for all of us. Though I would not think this is enough, because personally, one day in a year is not enough to hear our problems, what we have to say, and how we envision the society that is, and a system that is meant to work for us. Therefore, I think Serbia has to do more. I personally think that Serbia has this opportunity to learn more from the countries and from the people from other countries that are present in this call, but it is a very positive step forward. One of the topics we mentioned this year was the topic that is even more relevant than ever, the topic of mental health, which is also a really important factor when it comes to child crime, child processing, but also to many other problems that concern the youth in our country. So we are really glad for this experience, and we are looking forward to, let's say, a fight for something better. So yeah, sorry for the background noises. My sister just returned from school, but yeah, I give my floor back to Milana.
That was all from us. So thank you, Philip and Natalia, for your participation in Serbian CAB and to all of your work. And this is it from CAB Serbia. And if you have more questions, we are here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you all. The animation was really impressive. And I will give the floor to my colleagues from Bulgaria to present their own CAB and their work.
Hello, I'm Elisa. And I'm Martina. And I'm Petya, and we will present you jointly. And now I will share my screen. So we joined this project because in the past years, both me and Elisa happened to be in contact with the system, both some victims and offenders. Our experience in this project was very helpful for me, I think, and for Martina too, because we have regular meetings in the Community Support Center where we share our experience and that cases. We talk very much about what happened and about our rights and what should we do when we have being in touch with the law. So after every single talk with a professional here, I felt really confident because I knew my rights and I know what is the order. What is the order for what will happen next. We have been participating in workshops, video workshops. We learned how to make a video. We made ours, and it was really interesting. But the most useful thing for me that I learned is my rights and how can I use them, and I became more confident and more calm. Yes. We gained much knowledge in the area of knowing our rights, and we become, I think, more calm after everything. We have more confidence to speak in public like this right now. We learn how to shoot short video. We have been participating in organization and campaigns, and we have fun. Really, we have much fun, and that's it, I think.
And maybe if I can complement a bit. These girls, they participated, of course our group was bigger, but they participated also in several other events like trainings or workshops organized within our project, or for example in a consultation on the then developing EU strategy on the rights of the child. Of course, they received afterwards feedback on their input, so I think this was really also very inspiring for them. What about our campaign? We focused a lot on videos. So at the beginning, we produced 5 videos, which were more in consultative process. So the ideas of what could be shot was from children, and then the professionals shot the videos. We have 5 such videos, 2 judges, 1 colleague explaining what is individual assessment, and 2 victims. You will see one of these videos later, judge speaking. The other videos, for example, these victims, they're only for, we have allowance to use them only in trainings. And we use these videos both in trainings within Focus project, but we also used them in another project, so we reached more people. The other process was the collaborative process. Here, while participating in these video workshops, the children and the professionals at the end decided to produce 2 types of videos, one for children which come here in our services and would like to, and they not only would like, but they have the right to receive information about the individual assessment. So one of these videos will be for them, explained in child-friendly manner how, what is the individual assessment, why would we propose this option to them, and the other video will be for their parents. And then children also have produced their own video, which, as you see, this is Jerison Lansdowne pyramid for child participation, or her model for child participation. Here are some photos, images from our videos. And here is one very good quotation, which I think is very relevant. Listen to anything your children want to tell you. If you don't listen to the small stuff now, then they won't tell you the big stuff later. And now I'm going to close my presentation and to start to display the video. Please tell me if everything works correctly.
Зона закрила, мога да кажа, от годините, следните няколко години, от когато е обособена и съществува, е зоната, с която ние съдиите свързваме изготвянето на така наречените индивидуални оценки, които са част от доказателствения материал по наказателни дела. Тези оценки дават на съдията една много обективна представа какви са били специфичните нужди от защита на жертвата от престъпление още в самото начало, непосредствено след посегателството спрямо пострадалото лице. В съдебното производство понякога ние изискваме и допълнителна индивидуална оценка, която да бъде съобразена вече с през изминалия период от време, какви още смисъл, нужди специфични има нужда от закрила още това лице. Какви нужди още трябва да бъдат свързани, примерно с по-стресовото му разстройство, да бъде оказана такава форма на подкрепа. И именно тази индивидуална оценка и специалистите ни казват това, налага ли се такава подкрепа или не се налага. Има ли нужда да бъде включен допълнителни програми, с които да се работи с това лице. Тъй като делото по същество е поставено на вниманието на съда в по-късен етап, а не непосредствено след деянието, и тази оценка е на вниманието на наказателния съдия вече когато делото е влязло по същество за разглеждане. Разбира се, ако тя е в материалите на досъдебното производство приложена и в едно производство по разглеждане на мерки за неотклонение, тя също би намерила своето място сред доказателствения материал и би била взета от съдията под внимание с оглед преценката за определяне на мярката на отклонение на и самия извършител, за да се прецени представлява ли той наистина опасност допълнителна за пострадалото лице, има ли опасност да се окаже сплашване по някакъв начин допълнително върху пострадалото лице или би ли се пристъпило към отмъщение спрямо пострадалото лице за това, че то е потърсило съдействие на правозащитните органи. Директива 2012-29 на Европейския парламент и съвета не обхваща само деца жертви на насилие, но и принцип жертви, които са от уязвимите групи, жертви на престъпления. И в този случай аз мисля, че много добре подготвени специалисти наистина ни съдействат при разпита, ако се наложи провеждането на такъв, и връзката между съда и пострадалия, така че наистина най-по-безболезнен начин, така да го нарека, да премине този разпит и щадящ за пострадалия да бъде проведен.
Okay, now I will stop the video and I will share the links of this video and the other one which are public here in the chat so that everybody could watch them later. Thank you.
Thank you, Petya, and thank you, girls. We'll give the floor to colleagues from Netherlands.
Yes, thank you very much. And well, nice to see that children are present today. I have been working with young people actually in the Netherlands, together with Eva Huls, who's here today too. And Koosje Petersen also has been attending some meetings. So we've been working with a group of a bit older young people for about over a year. They're not here today because it was quite a run in the end, and they have been working a lot recently. So today it wasn't possible for them to come here. But they have prepared PowerPoints that I will share. Well, this is, you can't see them all, but this is some of the team. Let me see. Oh. Does it work? Yeah. well, I will tell you a bit more about the meetings and the training we did, and the social media campaign they made. And the team also decided to do some research and give conclusion and recommendations to stakeholders. So I'll try to tell a bit more about that. Well, we started with the Youth Advisory Board in November 2020. Because of the pandemic, it was a bit difficult to find really young people and to find them soon. So our young people were 17 until 21 years of age. And some of them already had been participating in projects with the police. So some of them were actually already participation experts, which made it more interesting even. Well, we held a lot of online meetings, with Coach Petersen, the youth lawyer, and the director of HALT, that's an alternative sanction. And we had a session on restorative justice as well. Annemieke Wolthuis was there, so we have a lot of people here today who know the young people in the Netherlands. We also did some training on children's rights. Eva Huls explained all about the European standards, and we explained how criminal procedures take place in court and what happens. Well, here you see some murals. We had to start working online as everybody else, so we created murals, and we did a lot of Zoom sessions. I don't know how many, but I think there must have been 20 or more, 25. And then at some point there was so much information, the young people really wanted action. So we started to do communication training, and they decided to focus on victims. They really said for child suspects in the Netherlands, there is quite a lot in place. But for child suspects, they really wonder what they can do, and we don't even know how many child suspects there are, child victims. Sorry. So they made a timeline, and they wanted to know what happens when you're a child victim of a serious offense, where you feel ashamed or you feel fear after it. What happens then, and what do you get, what do you need? And we saw that it was a kind of a black box, so we couldn't get much information. So then we started organizing meetings with victim support, and we spoke to an experienced expert. And well, they had. Oh, I hear something. Someone talking in a language I don't understand.
It's Bulgarian, but I don't know why I'm heard.
Yeah, unmute maybe. Maybe just mute the microphone. Does it work?
Well, I'm translating at the moment, but
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Well, so the CAP members had a lot of training, but at the same time, they started to participate in the national focus training. We organized a training with police, people from the police, and with stakeholders. So they, at the same time when they were doing training, they also explained to professionals how important youth participation is and what they were doing and what the results were. And then they made a plan, and the plan took place around Christmas this year. So they made a survey, and they analyzed all the outcomes of the questions they've been asking to the other young people. They made a publication, infographic was made by one of the CAP members. And on World Victims Day, which was on 22 February, they made a presentation to victim support and other stakeholders in a final online conference, and they shared their findings. The questionnaire they had made was spread by social media. So they made a social media campaign, and here you see one of the CAP members. She made a little movie to call upon other young people to fill in the questionnaire. And it was successful because we had over 300 young people aged 12 to 18 who filled in the questionnaire. So that was a good, good information. And here, one of the CAP members is quite good at this. I couldn't do it, but he was able to do this. So he made an infographic about the results. And we were shocked by the results, actually. I was quite shocked, but the young people, yeah, they expected it, but they didn't know it was this bad. And what we were shocked about was that 64% of the 300 young people filled in the questionnaire had been experienced a serious crime where they felt shame or where they felt fear. And 73% of this amount didn't do anything. They would just not know what to do, or they knew someone who did it, or yeah, they were fear. They hoped they would pass, that it would pass by itself. So we were a bit shocked that it was so many people, young people, who would not do something after a serious offense. And 66% said that they were still affected by it. So the young people said, "Wow, this is something we have to make known." So today, actually, we send an advocacy letter to the Member of Parliament on the Justice Commission. And well, I'll go through this quickly. But the conclusions were that, yeah, what the young people expected was true. This black box, that not knowing what happens to child victims and whether they get help, whether the help is good enough, that was confirmed. So in the report, we haven't translated it in English yet, but we do have an English visual. So it may be good for other countries to know this too, but it's probably a wider problem. And in the end, the young people called upon victim support, the police and prosecution to really make some changes and to make some improvements. And that's where we are now, because the Focus project is ending at the end of March. So they're still advocating, and we're still trying to ask attention for this. And we're planning to make a podcast this month to really inform people better about, in depth about what's going on. So I'll stop sharing, because I think there's a lot of other young people present who want to share something. If there's any questions about the work of the Dutch young people, then let me know.
Thank you, Martje. We look forward to hearing your podcast. Now we give the floor to Mihai from Tertezom, Romania, to present their own CAB. You are muted.
Okay, thank you very much. Because I had a problem with the channel, I heard another language. Thank you very much, Panagiotta. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you, and I'm also with. I'm also with Bora Petrica, which is another place, but he will intervene also in the presentation. So for Romania, I can say that Child Advisory Board was an important, I will share the screen for you, sorry. You hear me?
Yes, we see.
For Romania, the Child Advisory Board was very, very important and attractive for children and youth approach, because they had very rare opportunities to meet each other, especially in this pandemic period. But more than that, they had very rare opportunities to discuss with somebody which is outside from the place where they have, because we still have in the CAB 15 youth, girls and boys. 3 of the girls are from General Direction of Social Assistance and Child Protection in Dorsch County. And also we have 12 boys from detention and educational centers from all the centers from Romania. 4 are in total. The needs of other children and youth to participate in the meetings is high. We were able to take care and to invite only this number of youth, because we had to manage the meetings but in the reality, there are more children and youth wanted to be part of these meetings, and would be happy to be part, and also would be happy to have these CAB meetings, although the project is finished, to continue. The facilitation of the CAB meetings has been done by our colleague, our collaborator since years, Oren Davitek. It's an university teacher in social assistance in Bucharest University. And about CAB meetings and results, I can say that sorry, there is somebody. A core component of the Romanian CAB meetings was the involvement of children and youth in activities by trying to use the participatory approach as much as possible. In Romania, in 2 years since the project has started, we had 24 online CAB meetings. They were requests from children to meet each other, but was difficult in this pandemic period. Also was difficult to make this moment possible because the children are from different cities and were difficult for them to travel. Where the children and youth were involved in training session to empower and to make them aware about their rights. And we try to involve them in the activities to be able to develop together with the facilitator child-friendly information and advocacy materials we used in our advocacy activities. And you'll see them later. For us, CAB was an opportunity, and also for youth, for young people, was an opportunity to talk with others, to talk between them, to talk with others from other centers, and to talk with people, and this is the case of the 3 girls, to talk with people from outside of the center, because for them this moment are very, very rare. The children and youth, during the activities, they said this, and they were very, very surprised to see that their opinion is listened by our facilitator, was listened by specialists we invited in the sessions, and more than that, they were very impressed that what they say could influence the opinion of specialists, or much more than this, could influence the way of work by specialists. They were, for instance, we had a moment and we told them that, look, what you say in this meeting could be promoted in different meetings with very important stakeholders and policymakers, which could change the law, which could change the law for you, and much more than this for others, which you don't know at this moment. And they couldn't believe. I hope that somebody of them finally accepted the idea, and they were very, very creative. They started from the beginning, being shy, right? From one meeting to another, they became more confident, and they came with very, very good ideas, which have been used to create the tools in the project. Okay, as I said, the children want to make these CAB meetings something which is continuous, something which will be able to access after the project is finished. They proposed also to create a procedure to create these CABs in all detention centers and educational centers, and I'm happy now to say that, because I know that in our meeting now there are specialists from detention centers, and we could see how this could be put in place. Also in the CAB meetings, we did training sessions on child empowering and child safeguarding. We try to make the children to be empowered and to become agents of change, and to help us to advocate for child-centered justice. We saw and we seen also an increased awareness among children who came in contact with the law or as a victims or offenders regarding the multidisciplinary approach. Also, we have here Bora Petrica, which participated in several meetings, and he helped us in creating advocacy materials. And this multidisciplinary approach, he said that he wasn't able to receive this, and would be happy to create the possibility for all the children and youth in contact with the law to be part on individual assessment, but this individual assessment should be done using the multidisciplinary approach. And because I was saying about Bora Petrica, I will give him the floor. So thank you very much for your attention. After Bora Petrica will speak in Romanian, I will show you the video we created together with him. So I'll stop sharing. Petrica, you hear me?
Da.
Petrica, mă auzi?
Da. Salut, bună ziua tuturor! Mă numesc Petrica Bora și mă bucur să fiu alături de dumneavoastră în această zi importantă pentru proiectul Focus, dar și pentru
on such an important day. Thank you for the organizers for having given us this opportunity. While children in the educational and detention centers in Romania do not really have the opportunity to outspeak their problems, I have had this possibility, and I do know that youngsters would like for this program to continue, such meetings to continue, even subsequent to the accomplishment of this program. Well, many children and many youngsters are in the rehabilitation and reintegration process. We have been contributing to the drafting of this material. We have been contributing to the videos, and we have also been part of the awareness campaign directly to the authorities. Well, we have spoken about our ideals. We have spoken about this great possibility of having a public discourse, as I am doing right now, and we do hope that we can change something in the lives of the youngsters connected to the justice system and criminal law. Thank you.
Thank you, Petrica. Mulțumesc, Petrica. I'll stop sharing the screen. I'll start the video. Give me a moment, please.
Mihai, we do not hear the...
Sorry?
We do not hear the sound.
You don't hear the sound?
Yeah, we don't hear it.
Oh, yes. How can I do? Because when we made the preparation, have worked.
It was working, I know.
But Tamas is there.
Maybe you need to click share computer sound when you're sharing the screen.
Okay, I'll try. Thank you.
I'll
welcome. Stop sharing.
Yeah. And because we are a bit short in time, maybe
yes.
You show
Let me share it, Mihai, on behalf of you.
Yeah, okay. So Tamas is doing.
Can you see?
Okay.
Good.
Era în clasa 11-a, ceea ce a fost șters din prima zi de detenție. Pe toată perioada anchetei de 1 an și 2 luni, de fiecare dată când era un proces nou, o procedură nouă, poate se schimba un procuror, poate se dădea un termen nou, trebuia să repovestesc, trebuia să retrăiesc momentul. Adică eu oricum dădusem o declarație prima dată și chestia asta abuzivă de a repovesti, de a retrăi, nu m-a ajutat deloc să uit ce s-a întâmplat. Și cumva am trăit cu chestia asta și încă trăiesc.
Trebuia, când eram acasă, să vorbesc cu un psiholog, ca să pot să vorbesc și eu, să mă deschid, ca să pot să comunic și eu cu altă persoană. Pentru că eu când vorbeam de fapta mea, atunci gata, nu mai puteam. Când trebuia să vorbesc, de fapt nu mai puteam să mai vorbesc. Cu mama, cu tata, da, puteam să vorbesc, dar cu altceva nu puteam să vorbesc.
Există șocul încarcerării, cum îl numim noi, și unii au o posibilitate de adaptare mai ridicată decât alții, dar demersurile pe care le facem în perioada de carantină nu sunt singulare, adică nu ne rezumăm doar la evaluare. Încercăm să-i scoatem și să existe o relație de apropiere între noi și ei, pe cât posibilă, încrederea se capătă în timp, și de asemenea să-i familiarizăm cât mai mult cu tot ce presupune centrul de detenție, privare de libertate și tot ce le este lor util în a face aici, pe perioada detenției. În evaluarea propriu-zisă, explicațiile privind rolul specialistului în perioada de adaptare al persoanei internate contează foarte mult. Trebuie să îi se explice pe înțelesul lui, pentru că cei mai mulți sunt reticenți la contactul cu psihologul, în special, într-adevăr, față de educator sau asistent social cu care poate au mai avut oarecare contact sau au mai auzit de acești specialiști. Față de psiholog este un pic mai reticent, asociind cu anumite probleme psihice sau psihiatrice.
Thank you very much, Tamas. This was Bora Petrica, our colleague, because yes, he's a colleague of us. He's hired by TDH as a mentor in another project, and is a young boy with a very good future ahead, and we'll help him as much as possible we can. I'll give the floor to Panagiota.
Thank you. And then I will present the CAB work in Greece. In Greece, 2 CABs were established, one with children from the general population and one with children in contact with the law, in coordination with the juvenile probation services. I also have a presentation, but this was created by the CAB members themselves. I have no intervention. So let me start by sharing my screen. Some of the CAB members are present at this conference, so feel free to join and discuss and share your experience if you want. We start with the CAB members and a short quote. CAB members in the Greek CAB were from different countries around the globe and with different cultural backgrounds, which gave us an even more interesting perspective. You're all already aware of what is the CAB. The CAB was established in 2020. Initially, the children met online due to the COVID-19 limitations, and there were a much bigger group. Some people had to graduate, some didn't want to continue, and since September, we have formed a really close and tight bond. Children have learned a lot of things in a non-formal education setting, and as they say themselves, their voices are allowed to be heard. These are the aims that they set themselves. They wanted to educate others, they wanted to express their opinions and to raise awareness. They participated in a public speaking workshop on how to communicate the things they want, to disseminate information and material. They engaged in peer-to-peer learning, where CAB members prepared presentations and for justice-related topics and informed the others. They had a really intensive 8-day summer workshop with team building activities, theater, art, and graffiti. Using the UCreate methodology, which was created by Terdezom, they completed the UCreate training. They had a theatrical workshop with drama director. And they did a lot of artwork. They created posters and leaflets. I will walk through this in a minute. They learned how to do doodle art, comic strips, spray paint, and graffitis. This is the final mural, which is after obtaining permission from the school. The graffiti was on one of the school's walls, and it will stay there to create awareness among the other students, the parents, and the personnel regarding justice. CUB members participated in online conferences. They had the opportunity to meet with an adult who was a former inmate in the juvenile detention center. They had a fruitful discussion regarding his experience and what could have been better, what could have been improved in the justice system. And they have done interviews, they have participated in advocacy activities, they have distributed the brochures, and they have created an awareness-raising campaign to promote a child-friendly justice. They have also set other goals that we can achieve and other actions that we can take. So I will stop sharing the presentation and go through the material. I already saw you the mural, which is impressive. I will share now. This is the poster created from our CUB members to promote the child-friendly justice. And we have two sets of leaflets. One is informing the children who are involved in criminal procedures about their rights. As you can see, it's pretty detailed, so it covers almost everything. And there is also, leaflets on child participation. The leaflets have been distributed, are available in TDH's premises, and of course are available online as well as the poster and the mural. And I will close with the awareness-raising video.
Τι είναι το πρόγραμμα της Terdezom Focus on My Needs, συνεργασία για παιδιά αντιμέτωπα με τον νόμο? Με το πρόγραμμα Focus, η οργάνωση παιδικής προστασίας Terdezom, γη των ανθρώπων, θέλει να εξασφαλίσει ότι τα παιδιά που έρχονται σε επαφή με τον νόμο, είτε ως θύματα είτε ως παραβάτες, μπορούν να έχουν πρόσβαση σε ένα δικαστικό σύστημα πραγματικά δίκαιο, που σέβεται τα δικαιώματά τους και τους παρέχει εξατομικευμένη φροντίδα και υποστήριξη με βάση μια διεπιστημονική ατομική αξιολόγηση των αναγκών τους. Στο πλαίσιο του προγράμματος Focus, δημιουργήθηκε μια συμβουλευτική επιτροπή παιδιών με στόχο να ακουστεί η φωνή τους και να λάβουμε συμβουλές από τα ίδια τα παιδιά για αποφάσεις που έχουν να κάνουν με τα ίδια. Τα μέλη της Επιτροπής συμμετέχουν σε εκπαιδευτικά προγράμματα και δημιουργικές δραστηριότητες. Εκπαιδεύονται στη διαμεσολάβηση και στην υπεράσπιση δικαιωμάτων κάθε παιδιού. Αποκτούν εκτενή γνώση σχετικά με τη φιλική στα παιδιά δικαιοσύνη. Εξοπλίζονται με χρήσιμες για το μέλλον τους δεξιότητες. Να τι μας είπαν τα ίδια τα μέλη της Επιτροπής μας για το πρόγραμμα.
My name is Jesse Ayuba and I became a member of CUB because generally I wanted to try something new because I haven't done something like this before and I felt like I could make a difference somehow.
Child-friendly justice for victims includes the great emotional support being provided along the way and taking care of factors that contribute to emotional feelings of distress and trauma. For example, the fact that many children have to repeat traumatic stories countless times, whether this is in a courthouse full of people they have no familiarity to and are in fear, or whether to countless specialists during the criminal proceedings. It's very important to deal with such factors to ensure that dealing with a specific case doesn't scar the child more than the crime itself has.
Child-friendly justice is where children, more specifically child offenders, they are treated properly with care and best environment to speak around them. One thing I learned throughout the session is that I can play an important part in the society. I can express myself and my
who's going to make the rights and who's going to implement rights if the law is not going to do it. We want to empower youth to take action and responsibility for potentially their previous actions and grow an understanding and appreciation for the law.
So that was our CAB members. I want to thank them all for participating and for giving us all this wonderful insight, their ideas, their views. I just look at the chat and the comments. If anyone of you has any question or comment, or if any of the Greek members would like to intervene, now it's the time. So if not, this session will come to an end. I would like to thank all the cabinet members and our partners for participating and for creating all this wonderful material. As a reminder, I will again share my screen for a little slideshow on what the children have done these past 2 years. So this concludes the CAB related session. I hope that you all enjoyed as much as we did while creating all this material.
Thank you, Panayota. Okay, so thank you, Panayota, and I would like to also thank all our colleagues for the great work done. Actually, as you mentioned in that slideshow, we had a very big thank you at the very end to just thank all the children who were part of the Child Advisory Board, and I will take the chance to apologize to them who I didn't mention today. I couldn't remember all the names, but you are very valuable, and your contribution has been great to the work that we have done with Focus. So we concluded a very important session in this conference, but I think that we will just close. The better way we could close it is by inviting, actually, in our closing remarks, Ms. Theoni Koufonikolakou. Sorry for the pronunciation, it's a bit difficult for me, but I'm very happy and we are glad and very honored to have you here. Ms. Theoni is a lawyer specialized in human rights protection and domestic violence issues. Since 2018, she is also serving as Deputy Ombudsperson for Children's Rights within the Greek Ombudsperson. She is also the chair of the European Network of Ombudsmen for Children. Ms. Theoni, I would like to just give the floor to you for these closing remarks and to thank you also because I noticed that you joined us in the second part, just at the very beginning of the second part of our conference, and you've been with us hearing all the discussion. So just, I'll just pass the floor to you and thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind invitation. I was actually here from the very start of this event. I was listening very carefully, even though I was doing at the same time many things. Well, we meet, unfortunately, during difficult and troubled times that require our undivided attention, our vigilance, our interventions, and proper monitoring, but also highlight once more, even more, the need to mainstream children's rights and place them at the very top of our priorities in our countries and on an EU level. So we've heard some amazing work, some amazing insights and views, and the work that has been done by the Child Advisory Board of this project. It has been amazing. I heard about the confidence that was built by Elisa from Bulgaria. I heard Natalie and Philip describe their activities. Philip said that doing this one day is not sufficient. We obviously have to invest more on these initiatives. I saw the amazing inputs of children from Romania. I saw the survey that was had some shocking findings in the Netherlands. I saw that Greece has done excellent work, especially on an excellent artwork. I saw that the Netherlands also planned to already sent an advocacy letter and are also planning a podcast. Amazing stuff, amazing initiatives. This is exactly what we need. We don't need one children's ombudsperson, one children's defender, one children's commissioner. We need children that are actually advocating for their peers. This is what we need. I would like to start by congratulating you for this amazing project. I've read the focus standards, and I have to say that this comprehensive, structured, thorough approach is the way to make individual assessment practices an organic part of criminal proceedings, as well as to build the knowledge, capacities, and skills of youth justice professionals about standards and the knowledge of children about their rights in the criminal justice system, as your objectives describe. But if I may say so, it's not just about informing children of their rights or even facilitating them in their efforts to understand the procedures. It's about generously investing in building relationships of trust with children, especially the ones that are the most vulnerable. In many instances, we discovered cases in which the individualized needs of children were not even slightly described, much more assessed and addressed. And this, in the long run, has contributed into making children afraid of our justice system, terrified in the mere thought that they would get involved in it, and unwilling to share their thoughts and emotions with us. The ones that live in poverty and social exclusion, children on the move, Roma children, share the same mistrust to adults in general, but also to the system's ability to protect them in any way. And their disbelief to our abilities is confirmed almost every time, because in the majority of the cases, we lose children on the margins of our societies, either because we systemically contributed to their secondary victimization through multiple forensic interviews and media exposure. We haven't mentioned media exposure and the key role of individual assessment on that, either because of their labeling and mistreatment by our systems. Therefore, the absence or the inadequacy we mentioned before at the first part of the discussion, limited practices or not child-centered practices of established individualized assessment procedures in our countries is identified as a primary structural failure to meet children's needs, and it violates Article, amongst others, the directives, but also Article 3 of UNCRC, which is, and I agree with Madam Todorova on that, the UNCRC legal gateway for individualized assessment, and stipulates a framework for different types of obligations for the state parties, including the obligation to ensure that the child's best interests are appropriately integrated and consistently applied in every action taken, and the obligation to ensure that all judicial and administrative decisions, as well as policies and legislation concerning children, demonstrate that the child's best interests have been a primary consideration. And this includes describing how the best interests have been examined and assessed. BIA, best interest assessment, and individualized assessment are not the same, but there is a direct link between the two terms. Now, Article 40 of UNCRC and General Comment 24 on children's rights in juvenile justice that replaced previous comment number 10 do not, as already mentioned, refer explicitly to an individualized assessment, but give us the legal ground as well as the committee's jurisprudence to build on that. Madam Todorova already mentioned that General Comment 24 only emphasizes that the reaction to an offense should always be in proportion not only to the circumstances and the gravity of the offense per se, but also to the personal circumstances, age, lesser culpability, circumstances, etc. And of course, this aspect covers only a part of the individualized assessment objectives. Furthermore, we already mentioned directives on minimum standards on the rights, support and protection of victims of crime, on combating the sexual abuse and exploitation of children and child pornography, and on procedural safeguards, all embed individualized assessment procedures which aim or should aim at providing information about, one, what special procedural safeguards are needed in criminal justice proceedings for the child, for the specific child, and two, what special measures are needed to address the child's situation, child welfare, protection, family support, educational needs, and so on. So letting children be an essential part of this process, of this project, not only is in alignment with Article 12 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child and with ENOC's recommendations on introducing child rights impact assessment and child rights impact evaluation procedures in all decisions affecting children, ensuring that children are heard throughout, but I can see that it actually enriched your work, your project, with valuable insights and views of the young advisors. To us, it is really important to avoid, how can I say it? How can I put it elegantly? To avoid superficial tokenistic approaches when it comes to children's voice and opinion. We often come across well-intended initiatives and projects that involve children, but do not actually fulfill the standards of their involvement. There are some sine qua non conditions that are required to genuinely and actively listen to children, some of them being providing the time, a safe space, and empowerment to them to be able to express themselves freely. And I'm glad to see that these standards were met here. Being practical and building on realistic expectations is also an important aspect of all reforms. So, Focus project provides general overarching standards that, as already mentioned, are not abstract or unreachable. Introducing a structured individualized assessment that is holistic and comprehensive, inclusive, participatory, child-centered and child-sensitive, continuous and timely, multidisciplinary and collaborative, meets the quality standards, properly resourced and sustainable, impact and progress-oriented is not impossible. It's not even difficult, to be honest. And it's worth the effort because it will, with most certainty, be beneficial in the long term for social cohesion. And Madam Todorova also mentioned that for society as well. Concluding, we are obliged to push for the reforms required in our countries, not only to transpose directives and introduce procedures through legislation, that has been done, but to ensure implementation of these provisions. We would like to see these standards being applied as fully incorporated obligatory practices in everyday judicial proceedings, and consequently, it is important to convince the policymakers to efficiently respond to these initiatives by allocating the necessary resources, which are necessary, introducing the tools and building capacity and awareness in a multidisciplinary approach between professionals, while periodically evaluating their progress using reliable indicators. Awareness raising, I heard it, it's one of the 4 aspects, the 4 thematic areas of the roadmap, is very, very important, but it is very important also to invest on obligatory practices in our state countries, obligatory protocols. And when I say obligatory, to address the discussion in the chat room, I don't mean obligatory for the child, but for the professionals to apply. So, okay, awareness raising, okay, building capacity, okay, listening to what professionals have to say, but at some point it has to be introduced as a uniform method for our criminal proceedings in all of our countries. So the Greek Ombudsman will push for the introduction of the tools that meet the focus standards, while at the same time will continue to advocate for a child-friendly justice system. At this moment, the authority has intervened to the competent ministries for the adoption of a child-friendly guide of rights to all children in contact with the police. So to provide the information once the child passes the threshold of the police station, which is essential in our opinion. Even if we take all these steps, the guide, the standards, the protocols, even the legislative reforms that we need, even if we take all these steps at once, we know that relationships of trust are difficult and are built only through consistency and perseverance. Some of the children already mentioned in the videos that they do not trust the system at all. They do not have this kind of relationship with the system and with the adults serving it. So another sine qua non condition to nourish our connection with children is to respect them as credible witnesses when they confide their experience, and to understand their unique perspective. It's unique every time, every single time. The institutional and practical adoption of these standards will also contribute to the shift of the paradigm regarding criminal proceedings and children. Is it a right? Is it a process serving the investigation? This is why this discussion is taking place. We must slowly move our focus from the punitive approach to a child-centered one. The need to invest to the early identification of children that are victims, to invest more on the rehabilitation and reintegration of the child victim according to Article 39 of the Convention, and to collectively understand that there are no dangerous children out there, but only children in danger. Listening to their voices will allow us to build a bridge of communication with them based this time on honesty and respect. I hope that I have described the main points of our discussion, and I wish all the luck in your endeavors. I commit myself to be an ally on your efforts. So thank you for bearing with me.
Thank you very much. I would say that this was a very comprehensive, but also very strong closing remark of this event today. I couldn't do a summary of what you just said because it would be too much, but I just see that what you say is also an invitation to continue the work on this and to commit to continue and to further improve the situation and to use what we have at our hands. So that's also very encouraging, and we hope to make it and to do it with another phase of our project. Why not? And we are also a very good group of partners in this. And also, I just heard from you as well that you will be our alliance. So it's really great to have you also in any future initiative or continuation. I saw that we are just 3 minutes to our closing of the event. I know that Tamas wanted to just share with us a 2-question poll, and then I would like to just pass over to him, and then I will conclude with a big thank you. But I will do it after the questions. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Ioana. We will continue. Okay. So I think it's the poll is over. So I will just use these two last minutes to just go back to 2 years ago where we started. Unfortunately, we were just accompanied during this journey by a pandemic, but actually we did it, and we've been too busy in our everyday implementation, and we didn't realize actually the hard work and the big work that we've done. And today I saw that this was a very good opportunity to go in retrospective and see actually the great work that was done by all the partners. And we will hope to continue forward with that and to be able to have possibilities to build more and to create more for children, for and with children. Actually, I'd like to thank all the partners, all my colleagues. Actually, they are not the partners, but they are my colleagues. I would like to thank also the experts, Annemieke, Rebecca, Sylvia. I would like to thank Mariama, who's been a great support for these 2 years. I'd like to thank Maria, also, who was our communication advisor, and she did a great work also with the videos. So I'm very happy that we were a great team in this project, and it is coming to an end. But I hope that it would really open new doors and opportunities to work together on this. Thank you so much, Mr. Koufonikolakou. Sorry, it's too hard, but I made it. I even heard the translation of that in Greek, like I put it on translation.
May I say that it's difficult for Greek people, and may I suggest at a later stage to have a discussion directly with your young advisors?
Yes.
Just a suggestion.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you very much. I wish you a very good afternoon, and I just look forward to really continue the work together. Thank you. Bye-bye.